And to make a trade for the great sword, he still summoned the inferno bull that infused his body. Hansen transformed into a black bull with great wings and giant horns protruding from his head. The mouths of the man and the owner both sat agape. Oh my days, a berserk sacred blood transfigured beast soul that flies. You truly want to trade this magnificent thing for a sword? The man said, his eyes wide. Yes, that is my desire. Hansen took away the beast soul and returned to his true form. I will trade with you. The man immediately cried. Hey mister, this is my shop. If you want to trade or do business with this man, I must politely ask you to leave. You can talk with him once he's also left the building. The owner ran from behind the counter and stepped between the man and Hansen with a mean, scowling face. You said you didn't want to trade. I did not disturb your business, the man countered. Who said I wasn't willing to trade? The owner's face was red, and he had to force himself to speak. He ignored the man and turned to smile at Hansen. Mister, did you not wish to trade your beast soul for my purple copper ancient sword? I will trade it with you. Yes, I will. I'll do it right now. After thinking it over, I've realized that the offer is skewed heavily in your advantage. This is a tremendous berserk sacred blood beast soul. After all, Hansen smiled. Friend, do not listen to him. I'll throw in an extra mutant beast soul to go with the great sword, the man now offered. When Hansen left the beast soul shop, he walked out with his desired purple copper ancient sword and an additional armored sacred blood beast soul. They were both top of their kind in the Sacred Blood League. The ancient sword in particular. It was the best sacred blood sword a person could get, and being able to swap the Berserk Inferno Bull for both of these was absolutely worth it. Hansen was more than happy with the deal. Hansen had even expected to make a loss when visiting these shops for a decent sword, having not expected to make such a decent trade. Friend, how about we go and have dinner together? It would allow us to get to know each other. After he had left the shop, the curious man from earlier caught up with Hansen and invited him out. The man's name was Zhang Xiang, and he said he was the organizer of an arena designed for the combat of pets and spirits. He gave Hansen his contact details, telling him that if he ever had a pet or spirit he fancied putting in the arena for battle, all he had to do was call. You sell tickets? Hansen asked, confused. Zhang Xiang smiled and said, sort of, but we mainly trade in the physical transaction of pets and spirits, with some gambling on the side. Hansen's curiosity was piqued, as Zhang Xiang sold the idea. As little as he made it sound, however, Hansen knew it was the side gambling that made the big money. If you have the time, you can come with me to play. There is a challenge arena, and if your pet or beast soul can overcome the trials, you'll get a lot of money and fame. Any fights following that will only increase the money you could make, Zhang Xiang said. Hansen was interested. He wanted to take a look at the second shelter's range of pets and spirits and learn what level they might be at. He knew he wouldn't be lacking in spirits in the future, but if he wanted to sell them for a hefty price, he'd have to establish a relationship with this place first. Zhang Xiang brought Hansen to his arena. It was much bigger than he had expected. It was quite shocking that the little arena Zhang Xiang was referring to was actually the arena for the entire demon shelter. It could easily seat 100,000 people. The arena was split into several different battlegrounds, with each hosting a number of assorted pets and spirits battling it out. They were mostly pets, though, with few spirits fighting at all. Even at this time, however, there were around 10,000 people watching. Hansen then caught sight of Son of Heaven, sitting in the rafters. There was a number of beautiful women around him, watching the biggest battleground of the arena in the middle. Inside, spirits were fighting. These spirits were the only spirits in the arena fighting. The rest were just pets. Hansen took a look and noticed that both of the spirits were male. One was a giant cyclops, the other was a warrior clad in heavy armor. As impressive as they looked, they were only night-class spirits. Why are there only night-class spirits fighting? Aren't there any royal spirits? Hansen casually inquired. You must be joking. Spirits are not that easy to come by. The higher class spirit it is, the harder it is to recognize the owner. As well, Zhang Xiang explained. The whole arena has only ever had one royal spirit, and it has never found an opponent for it go up against. Our arena put down a substantial bounty in search of another royal spirit that could do battle with it in the arena, and the winner of such a fight would earn for themselves a free sacred blood beast soul. But we've still had not any takers. What kind of sacred blood beast soul are you offering? Hansen was interested. For what reason would he decline a free sacred blood beast soul? Brother Han, are you suggesting that you have a royal spirit? Zhang Xiang's eyes sparkled. Yes, I have one, Hansen said. What kind of spirit? Are you really looking to put yours to the test? Zhang Xiang looked at Hansen excitedly. I would first have to see what manner of sacred blood beast soul I'd be getting, Hansen said. It's a four-winged thunderbird. It is a rare, flying and mountable beast soul. Hearing this, Hansen quickly pulled out his beast soul booklet to take a look at what it was exactly. Brother Han, can I take a look at your royal spirit first? Zhang Jian was rubbing his hands excitedly as he asked. Of course. Hansen then summoned Snow Charmer. Zhang Jiang looked at the Snow Charmer and then his eyes almost popped out as he screamed. A royal female spirit. Hansen frowned his eyebrows. Fortunately, they were in a private room. If they hadn't been, Zhang Zhang's grating scream would have drawn the attention of everyone. Brother Han, I knew from our first encounter that you are a very special person. I can't believe you have such a beautiful royal female spirit in your possession. It is so very precious. Are you ever going to sell it? Zhang Jiang was nearly leaping with excitement, his eyes not leaving the Snow Charmer for 1 second. It was as if she had frozen his gaze upon her. No, Hansen had never thought spirits were suitable for trading as they were extremely intelligent. To him, it would be no better than human trafficking. Hansen wasn't lacking in money either, so there was no reason for him to ever sell it. Zhang Jiang looked disappointed, but he still happily arranged the Snow Charmer's challenge with much excitement. Shortly after two other spirits had ended their battle, the host drummed up excitement by saying, "Our demon arena is heating up, as we're getting set to host a battle between two royal spirits. It has been a long time coming, but our royal spirit demon has finally received a challenger." From the audiences, noise and chatter quickly erupted. Another royal spirit actually showed up. Is it true? Another. I wonder what kind of spirit it will be. I hope it's a pretty woman. Man, that would be awesome. Look at the list of challengers. It's listed right there as Snow Charmer. That sounds like a woman to me. I'm not sure what she looks like exactly, but that doesn't sound like another ugly cyclops. Right? Just by hearing the name I know that it will be a beautiful female royal. Place your bets, people. Who do you think is going to win? Of course it will be the demon. Just hearing the name you can tell which of them is the strongest. After Son of Heaven, who was sitting in the rafters, heard the speech by the host, his eyes looked strange. He said to himself, a royal female spirit, well, I suppose it doesn't matter. It's impossible for it to beat my demon. The demon spirit belonged to Son of Heaven. The entire demon arena belonged to Son of Heaven as well. Yet the demon spirit did not come from the demon shelter. It was something he had spent a great deal of money procuring. Its original name wasn't demon either. This was just a title Son of Heaven had bestowed upon it to match the arena. Son of Heaven wasn't worried that the demon spirit might lose, however. His demon was one of the top royal spirits one could possess, and he had equipped it with a few high-level beast souls. He refused to believe another spirit might ever possibly beat his own. But this was not just a fight between two spirits, it was a show of one's power and wealth. After all, spirits could make use of beast souls when they were provided them by the owner of the spirit. But Son of Heaven did not believe anyone had the talent to achieve victory over him. In the arena, the demon was already there. It was a 2-meter-tall warrior, plated in black armor and wielding a greatsword. It was no ordinary-looking greatsword, and it could very well have been a sacred blood one. When the demon entered the arena, it did so to the welcoming cheers of much applause. It was to be expected. After all, a battle of royal spirits was a supremely rare occurrence. When the Snow Charmer came out, the audience went crazy, screaming with excitement. It really is a female spirit. Well, she is so beautiful. This royal spirit is far too pretty. Who is the owner of this spirit? He is a lucky man, indeed. Son of Heaven watched the Snow Charmer's reveal with focused eyes. Initially, he wasn't too concerned with the coming fight, and he hadn't even asked who his demon's opponent would be. But the Snow Charmer's appearance startled him, and so he sat up, captivated. In the beginning, before the arena, Son of Heaven wanted a beautiful spirit for himself, but there did not exist many in this world for him to claim. The likes of an actual lady spirit were even rarer. The appearance of his challenger was enthralling to see, and his eyes were wide in admiration. The fight began. Holding its greatsword high, the demon roared and dashed towards the Snow Charmer. The Snow Charmer did not move, but her body shone with a red armor that was decorated in a variety of different glyphs. The icy cane she held in her hands became the ice blood lance she would use for battle. Then, a golden light hovered between her legs, and from it, what appeared to be a golden beast formed and raised the Snow Charmer upon its back. She had become a lancer of elegant doom. The Snow Charmer rode the golden roarer majestically, and their perfect synergy made them look like they were one. The speed at which she rode towards the demon enabled raging impact. The ice blood lance thrust into the demon, and the demon's greatsword slashed the Snow Charmer. The demon took a few steps back, but fortunately for it, the armor had not been pierced. The slash that the Snow Charmer received was fair, but under the protection provided to her from raging impact, she was not hurt. After the dust settled on their opening moves, it was too early to gauge who seemed likely to win. Son of Heaven's eyes gleamed with a certain fire. It was too soon for him to level up and gain access to the second shelter, so he had never seen a golden roar before and was therefore unfamiliar with its talents and abilities. Son of Heaven was shocked to see the equipment that the snow charmer was loaded with. He knew that whoever owned that royal spirit was no ordinary person. Someone called for Zhang Xiang. Son of Heaven ordered for the people beside him to locate Zhang Xiang so he could inquire about who the snow charmer's owner was. He also wanted to know if there was any chance he could bargain for possession of her. Zhang Xiang quickly appeared in front of Son of Heaven and politely said, "Boss, is there anything you require?" "Who is the owner of that snow charmer?" Son of Heaven asked. Zhang Xiang hastily replied, "It is a young man of the name Han. He must have arrived here from another shelter. He is a reserved fellow, so I wasn't able to learn much about him." Han, Son of Heaven, could not help but frown, as that surname brought up many unpleasant memories. It reminded him of a person he hated a lot. But Son of Heaven shrugged it off, believing the name was a coincidence and that the snow charmer would assuredly not belong to the Hansen he used to know. That person was a late arrival to the second shelter, and he had only been there for less than a year. It would be impossible for him to acquire such spirits and beast souls in that amount of time. "Wait until the battle is over, then bring him to me." Son of Heaven relayed this order to Zhang Xiang and did not say anything more, although the snow charmer's performance was amazing, and the beast souls she owned were pretty remarkable. Son of Heaven still believed she was no match for his demon. He watched quietly. The clashes of the two spirits had pumped the audience into a frenzy of sheer excitement. The colliding of lance against sword, the trading of blows between a beautiful woman and a warrior, and the accompaniment of a terrifying mount rallied the crowd's enthusiasm to the max. "Demon, it is time for you to reveal your true strength." Son of Heaven observed that the mood of his audience was fever high. A creepy smile raised his lips. All of a sudden, the demon leapt out of the battleground and screamed as a light emanated from the partings in its plate armor. The body quickly morphed into that of a black ape built from metal, a sacred blood black seal ape. I had no idea that the demon had a sacred blood transfiguration beast soul. Someone recognized the demon's transfiguration beast soul and screamed aloud in mounting excitement. But this was not the extent of its abilities. The demon pointed its greatsword and summoned a yellow lion which had a horn on its head. After the lion appeared, it roared at the sky intimidatingly. A sacred blood pet golden horn lion. That is not fair. How is the snow charmer supposed to compete with that? 2 versus 1. And it's a sacred blood pet. Victory for the snow charmer is surely unobtainable now. He is too rich. He has too much money. But before the demon could start attacking, the snow charmer made a move of her own. Her body started to shine, and a really beautiful snow lady transfiguration beast soul appeared to combine with the snow charmer. From it, the snow charmer's hair turned white. Her eyes gleamed silver, and her body was consumed with a biting frost. It is a humanoid transfiguration beast soul. It almost looks human now. Is the snow charmer's transfiguration a sacred blood type? While everyone was reeling from shock, the snow charmer raised her lance. A red-armored beast with 4 wings then spawned. It approached the golden horn lion. The two beasts collided with each other. One could not overcome the other, which resulted in a stalemate that rocked the audience to their cores. No one had expected the owner of the snow charmer to be so rich, almost as rich as the demon's owner himself. When Son of Heaven laid eyes on what was happening, he was just as rattled. It was normal to have armored beast souls raise a sacred blood pet, but that wasn't something ordinary elites could do. It must have had really strong power. Who is this person? Son of Heaven furrowed his brow once more. While Son of Heaven was still in shock, he saw the snow charmer raise her lance again. A flaming bird of fire soared through the sky, looking like a phoenix, raining fire down on the battlefield. It's an aura-type beast soul. How does that work? The look on Son of Heaven's face was bleak. An aura-type beast soul employed area of effect techniques best designed to go against groups of opponents. It was something sought after by numerous parties and shelters. He was in disbelief at the sight of an aura-type beast soul being used by a royal spirit. Even worse, the radius of the attack seemed significant, which might have suggested it was a sacred blood aura-type beast soul. The color drained from his face. Son of Heaven's assessment was incorrect, however. The range of a desert bird's aura was no different than the second shelter's sacred blood beast soul. The difference between the two was in power. Still, it was an intimidating attack and its efficiency was still quite remarkable. The demon had been totally restrained by the attack, and no matter what beast soul it had or at what quality, it could not overcome the snow charmer's bombardment. They were both royal spirits, yet the demon could not compete with her. Even without the desert bird, the double berserk armor and glyph would have proven too much for the demon to breach. The snow charmer paid no heed to the fruitless attacks of the demon and traded them for a significant blow to her opponent's weak point. In reaction to the critical hit, the demon fell backwards, screaming in agony. Son of Heaven couldn't stop his face from twisting and contorting as he viewed the battle. After a while, he ordered his demon to throw in the towel. Acknowledging his opponent's victory, he felt extremely depressed. If she killed the demon, every sacred blood beast soul he possessed would be gone. Even someone like Son of Heaven could not incur such a significant financial blow. Bring him to me. I want to see who this person is. Son of Heaven gritted his teeth. From what had just happened, he felt humiliated. Zhang Xiang quickly went in search of Hansen and when he found him, said, "Mr. Han, the boss wants to see you." Zhang Xiang did not dare refer to Hansen as brother anymore. The performance of the snow charmer had well and truly rattled him. He knew that Hansen was an extraordinary character and could not possibly be any lower in status than Son of Heaven himself. He now felt the need to refer to him more appropriately. Son of Heaven. Hansen looked at Zhang Xiang and quietly asked. Yes, Zhang Xiang replied. Hansen then casually said, "If he wants to see me, then tell him to come down and meet me. I don't have the time or interest to go up there." After Son of Heaven heard what he had said, he suppressed the anger he felt in his heart and followed Zhang Xiang back down to Hansen's room. The moment he pushed the door open and laid eyes upon Hansen, he stiffened as if he had just suffered petrification. He just stood in the door frame and did not move. He could not believe that the snow charmer's owner was Hansen. He could not believe that Hansen, who had only just gained access to the second shelter, had already amassed such a fortune. How is this possible? Son of Heaven's face was a mixture of conflicting emotions. Zhang Xiang was standing behind Son of Heaven, looking at him with shock. He was used to seeing Son of Heaven as cocky and intimidating, but this was the first time he had ever seen him show restraint. Does he not dare to go inside fully? God, what happened? Who is that man named Han? He seems to have stricken fear into Son of Heaven himself. Zhang Xiang thought, looking upon Son of Heaven's face but misunderstanding him. Son of Heaven was not afraid of Hansen. It was just that Ning's family avoided Hanjing and they had issued a decree stating no member of the Ning family could have any contact or conflict with Hansen. So, when Son of Heaven saw Hansen, he was crippled with shock and was unsure of what to do. He did not dare throw Hansen out, but he knew that he couldn't be friends with him, either. Didn't you want to see me? What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to say your bit? Hansen looked at Son of Heaven with amused confusion. You, why have you come here? Son of Heaven wasn't exactly sure what to say. He had never bowed to anyone else before, and he wasn't used to showing modesty or courtesy. An unexpected meeting such as this made Son of Heaven uncomfortable, and it clashed with the way he generally presented himself to others. I heard there was a sacred blood beast soul up for grabs here at the arena, so I came to take it. Can I have the four-winged Thunderbird now? Hansen smiled wryly as he spoke. Son of Heaven's eyebrows jumped as he looked at Hansen, and then said emotionlessly, Zhang Xiang, give him the four-winged Thunderbird. Zhang Xiang had never seen Son of Heaven behave like this before. He was flabbergasted, but he nodded and then went to retrieve and deliver the four-winged Thunderbird to its new, rightful owner. Ah, there it is. Well, I have what I came for. I should get going now. Perhaps I'll see you around. Hansen took the beast's soul and prepared to leave. Son of Heaven's face looked quite ghastly, and he moved his lips as if to say something, but then stopped. Hansen left the demon shelter almost immediately. Back in the Crystal Palace, Hansen teleported to the Alliance. Now that he had both swords, he just needed to perfect the dual blade skill itself. And he wasn't particularly thrilled about Hansen occupying the only high-class training room all the time, because that was the only room that had artificial gravity. To have gravity support, you had to visit the gravity chamber, but the things that you were able to do in such chambers were quite limited, and those places were too restrictive to train freely. For this, Annie was quite upset. When Annie arrived that day, she saw that the high-class training room was still in use. She bit her lip and went to the control room. She wanted to take a look at what Hansen was doing in there. If he was training in there, then she'd let him be. But if he wasn't, she was determined to kick him out. As a guard of Jai Yanren, Annie had great authority. Quickly, she obtained the tape of footage from the training room and took a look. Training a sword skill. Annie saw Hansen in the video training with two beast soul swords. Annie watched the tape for a while, and her demeanor changed. She cared little for his power or speed, but she was shocked when observing his skills. She noticed Hansen's left hand was holding a thin, silver sword. The style was quite flowy, and each slash was reminiscent of some toxic snake leaping out of a cave to strike. His arm was swinging from a wild variety of angles, and it was impossible to guess where he would be thrusting or slashing next. In his right hand, he was holding a purple and copper sword, and the style was very free and wide. The power of each swing brought with it the force of a mountain. The beat and rhythm of each sword skill were different, and they didn't follow each other. If Annie saw these two skills being cast individually, she wouldn't think much of it. It was the fact that they were being cast in tandem by the same person that amazed her. Each hand rolled and waved with a different beat and a different rhythm, and it was hard to believe anyone could use both hands so effectively. It was like two people using a sword but in one. The more Annie watched, the more shocked she was. This was not any ordinary dual-blade sword skill, that was for sure. It had to be something completely different, one that employed both hands to do things separately. Very few evolvers in the Alliance could achieve something like this. It required more than talent to do something like this, as you needed a lot of focus to control both hands individually. If you lacked this, you would quickly become confused and lose all semblance of the skill. There were a few surpassers that had evolved in a way that gave them two personalities, so they could control each hand independently, and cast two sword skills at the same time. But amidst evolvers, such a thing was very rare. Annie really wanted to know whether or not he could use a dual-blade skill such as this in a proper fight. It would be quite terrifying to go up against someone who could. After thinking for a while, Annie left the control room and went towards Hansen's training room. All of a sudden, the training room's door was open. A shadow rushed through with a sword in its hand and speedily approached Hansen. He didn't even see the shadow's face before lifting his sword to block the incoming strike. Dong! The swords struck each other, and when the sparks cleared, Hansen noticed it was Annie. Annie, what are you doing? Hansen furrowed his eyebrows. Annie did not answer. Instead, she brought up her longsword and cast a skill. Although her move did not hit anything, it looked like a thunderbolt. It was quick enough to interrupt Hansen's intention of continuing to talk, and it only gave him the time to try and block. It was too quick. Hansen's sword wasn't enough to block Annie's attack, so he had to use two. He managed, but it was no small feat, and he was sloppy in his execution. Annie, are you looking to kill someone? Hansen managed to regather his composure and yelled his question. Although it was a question with a certain gravitas, Hansen knew that if she truly wanted to kill him, he'd have been unable to dodge or block her previous strike. Annie remained silent, and she restarted her assault. Her method of combat was wide and quick, like the brief flashes of lightning. To evolvers, her speed was remarkably scary, and few would be able to withstand her attacks. Hansen, however, was able to block every strike, and Annie could see for herself that he was using different sword skills without a single misstep. It was an exceptional choice. You can really do two things with one mind, can't you? You can cast two skills, one for each hand. Annie spoke with surprise, and her face looked strange. Hansen was super happy to be able to repel Annie's attacks. Annie's sword skills were quick, even quicker than the twin spirit itself. This was a perfect opportunity for Hansen to train against someone with fast skills. Annie was a surpasser, and although she lowered the speed of her attacks to go against Hansen, she was still faster than any other evolver. Ordinary evolvers could never hope to dodge her frantic attacks. Annie merely wanted to give Hansen a quick test, and after doing so, she was ready to leave. But Hansen shouted and ran towards Annie with both swords drawn. You come here, try to act cool and then just leave. I can't let you walk away so easily. Hansen swung both of his swords in a bid to get Annie to stay. Annie was surprised at his behavior. She made a hum sound and stayed her exit. She brought up her longsword once again and ran towards Hansen, deciding to beat him up before leaving. She didn't boost her sword speed from earlier but kept it at what it was instead. But even like that, it was both faster and stronger than Hansen was capable of dealing with. Hansen's dual sword skill was strange, but Annie still thought it wouldn't be difficult to beat him. Dong! Annie's sword struck Hansen's silver sword in his left hand. She expected the strike to knock the sword away, so she could follow up with a couple more hits and push Hansen to the brink of defeat and achieve the revenge she sought for the game Hansen played upon her previously. But when the two swords collided, Hansen's sword did not receive the impact how she predicted it would. In fact, she felt an unnerving strength encroach and push against her own sword. She felt as if she had hit nothing at all. This sword skill of yours is spooky. Annie's heart was wondering why her skill was unable to disarm Hansen how she wanted it to. After a few more slashes, Annie was fairly sure that Hansen's left hand was imbued with yin force. When her sword clashed with his, she felt his sword feed and drain most of her energy and power. Unless Annie was willing to amplify her powers beyond what any evolver could do, there would be no way she could knock the sword out of his hand. Then I'll just go for your right hand sword. Annie switched her target and attempted to go after Hansen's purple copper ancient sword. Dong. Annie's longsword met the ancient sword and immediately felt a horrible strength push back against her. Although the force was not as grievous as her true max potential, it was enough to prevent her from knocking the sword out of his hand. How can he possess such power? Annie was puzzled and distraught. Hansen's dual skill was far from a combination of two separate sword skills. He was employing yin and yang, fusing the sword skill with yin-yang blast. The balance of yin and yang was helping each other, combining the skies and humans together. Although now it was just the first shape, and he obviously had not mastered yet, it was still a shock for Annie to witness this. The number of surprises she was receiving only kept growing and growing. Lightning now erupted from Annie's body and following her next attack. The thinner space on both of Hansen's hands were cut. His swords were sent rocketing away, and the force made them both pierce and remain stuck in the metal walls of the room. Annie looked at Hansen one last time. Then she turned around and walked away. Her tall and slender shadow left the training room. Annie returned to her room. She reclaimed the videotape she had watched earlier and sent it via a special communicator. At the same time, in the same office, a middle-aged man opened the videotape. After watching it, he closed his eyes and reclined in his seat. It seemed as if he was resting, but then he opened his eyes and looked at the video once more. One mind controlling two things. Is this really the heir of Hanjing? Is Hanjing's prediction going to turn out correct? The middle-aged man furrowed his eyebrows as he spoke to himself. The communicator on his table rang again. He looked at the number and smiled. He picked up the call and saw the image of a beautiful woman fill the screen. Yanran, where did you find the time to talk with your old man today? Shouldn't you be spending your free time with your boyfriend? The middle-aged man joked. Jai Yanran blushed and said, Dad, what are you talking about? You know I always care about you. I know my daughter cares about me. Worry not. But recently, you have been spending less and less time communicating with me. If you do have the time, try and talk to your mother once in a while as well. I know she can be mean, but she loves you and misses you dearly. The middle-aged man said. I know, father. I was just talking to Mom, and yes, she kept complaining about me. Jai Yanran said. Right. Wait until Hansen has finished serving in the army before introducing him to your mother. You two aren't young anymore, and if there aren't any issues prohibiting it, you both should get married sometime. I am still waiting for my grandkids. Dad, you really want me to get married that much? Jai Yanran's face was red, but she was happy to know how accepting her father was. Are you saying that kid named Han isn't good enough for you? Fine. I'll get Annie to throw him into the Black Plague Star and get him chained up in some mine somewhere. He can dig there for the rest of his days while you go and find someone you like. The old man jested, with a cold face. Daughters always knew what their fathers thought. And Jai Yanran knew exactly what this middle-aged man was thinking, too. She laughed and said, Fine, quit your kidding about. When he's done serving the army, I'll bring him around so he can meet you and mother. If you aren't satisfied, I'll throw him into the Black Plague Star myself. You seem quite confident. It looks like my daughter really has been attracted by someone. To think that the daughter I have had for 20 years will be taken away. Dad, can we quit pretending? Let's talk like normal. After the call ended, the middle-aged man's smile soon faded away. He carefully perused the information Annie had sent him, along with the videotape. His fingers tapped the table as he read, and he didn't say a word until he was done. Han Jingjai, you cause much unrest even in death. After a break of silence, the old man sighed. He closed the information tab. I am afraid you have a problem. Young Manly wore a grave expression. And what problem would that be? Hansen casually asked. Problems followed him wherever he went, so what was one more to the equation? It's the sun, Dong said. Young Manly said, heavily. That man wouldn't idly sit back and watch you claim the Black God shelter, and your men are the ones who are listening to Dong lie. With his son there, it'll be difficult to maintain our hold on the Black God shelter, Young Manly said. I can't believe they have made us become his guardian. That Dong lie got me good, and it's not like I can reject this responsibility. Hansen said and smiled. You can smile at a time like this. Young Manly rolled her eyes, but there Hansen was, smiling. Again, Hansen smiled. Then he said, why shouldn't I smile and laugh? No matter how much he has planned, control of the shelter resides firmly on the feeble shoulders of his son. He might not have what it takes. And besides, there is protocol to follow. There is no way Dong Lai will be able to kick us out. Maybe you are right. But if those people don't listen to you and follow the sun's command instead, what will you do? Young Manly thought Hansen was being too naive. That's fine by me. But for as long as I am around, the Black God shelter will be too. If I am gone, then the shelter will be destroyed. It's as simple as that, Hansen said, with a streak of cold in his tone. Still, he did sound calm. Mr. Han, I have admired your name for a long time. Today, I finally get to meet you. In the Black God shelter, a young man shook Hansen's hand with awe-driven sincerity. Hansen smiled and looked at Kai Ziyun, a person who was young, handsome, and most certainly outgoing. He had a smile that could melt the collective hearts of the entire world. But in Kai Ziyuan's features, Hansen could spy the shadow of Ning Yu. Still, Kai Ziyuan was much younger. Ning Yu's heart and mind operated in tandem, neither feeling differently from the other. Inner disputes concerning morals and other such things stem from the differences of ideals and favoring of people's hearts and minds. But it wasn't so with him. Kai Ziyuan was no different than the norm in this regard. In Hansen's eyes, Kai Ziyuan was a little girl in his mother's clothing, applying too much makeup and trembling in her high heels. He was clearly attempting to come across as mature, even though his appearance left much to be desired. He meant well. Perhaps he would make a name for himself in the future, but for now, he was clearly too young. Hansen continued to observe Kai Ziyuan. He nodded but didn't care much for him and didn't consider him a threat or potential opponent. His opponent wasn't even in the general vicinity of Black God Shelter. He wasn't anywhere across the ice fields, either. Big Brother Han, I must have you take care of me in the future. I have only just arrived in the shelter, so could you provide me with some mutant flesh and beast souls? It would be most favorable if they were of the sacred blood variety, too. Kai Ziyuan presented himself as lowly, like an absolute newbie. Sure, no problem, Hansen agreed. Kai Ziyuan was made immeasurably happy, and said in appreciation that I will be sure to rely on you in the future. Father told me there is much I should learn from you. If it is okay with you, could you bring me along next time you go out to hunt creatures? Sure, Hansen agreed. Despite Kai Ziyuan's apparent and continued respect for Hansen, young Manly couldn't help but feel a little paranoid of something sinister lurking beneath the newbie's exterior. I think we need to talk about the problem that is Kai Ziyuan. Young Manly approached Hansen, who was getting ready to go out on a hunt. She made sure to block his passage. Fine, speak. Hansen smiled, sat down, and looked at young Manly. That Kai Ziyuan is dangerous. He is trying to please everyone around you, but he is something else. He is a slithering snake. Young Manly said her piece straight, hoping to talk some sense into Hansen and get him to pay attention. I know, Hansen nodded. If you know, why do you still conform to everything he asks? Young Manly looked him in the eye and said. Hansen stopped to think for a second. Then he tilted his head and replied, Manly, have you ever owned a pet? I am talking about something serious here. Young Manly was starting to sound annoyed. Why am I not being serious? I'm just wondering, have you ever owned a pet? Hansen smiled and asked. No. Young Manly couldn't be bothered, but still answered. I used to know a neighbor who owned a cat. It was a really big, good-looking panther. It had thick black fur and the neighbor really cherished it. He groomed the cat each and every day, fed it luxurious cat food, and provided it with a magnificent cat house. Hansen smiled and then continued, whenever I walked past his house, I could look over and see the cat sunbathing in the yard like some lord, behaving like the master of the house. Whenever it was upset, it would chew up the shoes in the house, and whenever the master wasn't paying attention to it, the panther would tear up the books he was reading. Young Manly's face lit up, as if she had just realized something. Then she started looking at Hansen with wondering eyes, as if she were in deep thought. I was curious, so I went to ask the neighbor why he spoiled the cat like that, Hansen said. And what answer did you receive? Young Manly curiously asked. Hansen sighed and said, well, the neighbor just rolled his eyes and said, don't you know it's only a cat? Its world is fairly small and as a master I am its everything. In the reverse, from your point of view, it is only a cat. After he said that, Hansen patted young Manly's shoulder and said, you go do your thing. Our world does not belong here. Seeing Hansen's shadow leave the room, young Manly's emotions were in complicated knots. So, after all, he does not value Kai Ziyuan, and he does not prioritize the well-being of the ice fields or the Black God shelter in his heart. Hansen had an idea. Although he couldn't command the silver fox to hunt, and his previous attempt to kill sacred blood creatures under the sea had failed, a new idea struck him. It's okay not to hunt. I just need to bring you to the spirit shelter. If I did that, wouldn't all the creatures start running off? That means I could reach the spirit hall with ease. The only thing I am not sure of is whether the spirits will run off as well. But if they did, I could pick up the spirit stones for free. Come, I am such a genius. Hansen's face smiled like a radiant flower as he thought of how he might easily obtain numerous spirit stones with little to no trouble. Come, my cute little silver fox. I have cooked you a fish fillet. Would you like to try some? Hansen was still super happy. After his bright idea, he leapt into the sea and caught a fair number of fish to cook for the silver fox. Seeing the silver fox eat the fish fillet slowly, the way Hansen smiled hid his eyes beneath numerous layers of creases. He said, good boy, eat more and more. When you are full, let's get to work. They arrived in no time at all. The royal shelter was now standing before them, and numerous creatures were walking in and around its exterior. Hansen took another look at the silver fox in his hands and quietly whispered, this is the moment of truth. Continuing to hold the silver fox in his arms, he resumed his run towards the royal shelter. Just as he had hoped, all the creatures ran away at his approach. Not a single creature attempted to bar his passage, quickly fleeing before he even got close. Haha, I am going to be rich. Hansen, upon entering the royal shelter, smirked at the absence of a single creature there. He wondered where they all might have gone, but then hastily ventured towards the spirit hall. He entered the spirit hall without any trouble, but much to his dismay, he saw that the twin spirit continued to stand firm where it should have been. It didn't run off as he had expected it to. Seeing the silver-haired lady and blonde-haired lady pick up their swords, Hansen summoned his beast soul armor and glyph. He then summoned his purple copper ancient sword and silver eye snake king sword. The twin spirit swords came upon Hansen like a hard rain. The silver sword and golden sword crossed each other, as if they were trying to trap him in a net of blades. But what surprised Hansen the most was the fact that their sword skills were accelerating more and more. They were getting faster and faster, with each hit being heavier and heavier. He felt as if he couldn't hold out much longer. The silver-haired lady dealt Hansen's shoulder a blow which drew blood. Fortunately, it was not in a critical spot and so the damage wasn't severe. Hansen knew that he had not perfected his dual blade skill yet, and that it still possessed a few flaws. But right now, there was nothing else he could do. He battled the twin spirit for half an hour, and after receiving a few more hits, managed to summon his wings and fly away. The twin spirit was unable to fly, and the other creatures of the shelter would not dare approach Hansen, for he still had the silver fox in his company. So they just watched Hansen fly away. I'll be back, Hansen shouted at the twin spirit as he escaped to the skies. You are such a heartless fox. I give you nice food every day, treating you as I would treat my very own son. You saw me get injured, didn't you? So, how come you didn't help me out, you white-eyed fox? Hansen was gasping as he spoke to the silver fox. He thought that if he was injured by the twin spirit, the silver fox would be enraged enough to leap into the fray and protect its master. But all it did was stay perched on Hansen's shoulder, not moving an inch. The silver fox was behaving as if it didn't see or hear anything. It did, however, lick his wounds after the escape, like it did once before. Almost immediately after the silver fox's application of its saliva, the wounds cleared up. Hansen was frustrated, but he wasn't mad at the silver fox. Seeing it care for his injuries, he smiled at the silver fox and rubbed its head. But Hansen wasn't walking away empty-handed. No matter how often he practiced his dual skill, he had been unable to perfect it. It was designed to deal with the twin spirit especially, and if he hadn't been able to at least test it out with them, there was no real telling whether or not it could be perfected as the ideal skill to go against them. He had also discovered that he could run into royal shelters with no trouble at all. He could walk into this particular one and battle the twin spirit whenever he desired. If he came back here a few times, every now and then, he could finally master his dual skill and beat the twin spirit. Fine, if I can't get it right the first time, I'll be sure to get it right by the 10th. And if it's still not mastered by then, I'll go there 100 times. Today, Hansen was leaving the Black God shelter to go to the royal shelter and further train his dual skill with the twin spirit. This time, however, as Hansen was running across the ice fields, the silver fox raised its head in a peculiar manner. The hairs of its silver coat of fur stood on their ends and its drowsy eyes were perked and wide awake. The silver fox looked in the direction of a giant glacier not too far away from them. Hansen patted the alerted silver fox's head to calm it down, but he was aware of what it had been looking at. As he stroked the fox, Hansen started looking at the nearby glacier. Come on out, friend, Hansen gently called out. From behind the glacier, Zui Quang, who was clad in all white clothing, emerged. His strong body was not something people were likely to forget, and his skin was transparent like ice. It was even more delicate than the skin of a woman. Zui Quang. Hansen frowned as he looked at him. At the exchange event, he caught sight of Zui Quang, but he had assumed that he lacked the high profile his brother Zui Yang did. He didn't come on stage to give a speech, but nevertheless, Hansen remembered him. Zui Quang did not respond. He merely raised his fist and started running towards Hansen. He was over 10 meters away from Hansen, but in one step, he had already appeared in front of him. Hansen watched his crystal-like fist and observed the frosted aura that surrounded it. Hansen summoned the silver snake sword and brought it down on the incoming fist. Following the strike, Zui Kuang's fist was not even bleeding. Hansen took a few steps back, his sword ringing from the mighty slash as if it had been brought down on rock. Zui Kuang still did not say anything. His fists were like a blizzard, furiously thrashing towards Hansen. Every punch was loaded with the power to kill a man, and the ferocity at which they were coming was frightening to witness. Hansen was surprised and worried. Is everyone in the Zhu family a madman? If a person has a difference of opinion, why not talk about the issue? Staying silent, raising fists, and seeking to kill is barbaric. This guy is freaking insane. Hansen did not have the time to talk, but these thoughts raced through his heart. Zui Kuang's fisting skills were too cruel. Even with Hansen's level of sword skills, he was being suppressed. He had to rely on his Dongsu Sutra to keep up with Zui Kuang's pace. Zui Kuang was a far better fighter than Zui Yang. Hansen was putting all his effort into the fight, but it was proving barely enough to keep him alive. After a blizzard passed through, Zui Kuang fell back. The snowstorm disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Then, Zui Kuang stood where he was and said, "You really are something. You are able to block my blizzard skill. Zui Kuang, I hold nothing against you. What is this all about? I don't need a reason to kill anyone. If I want to kill, I will kill. It's that simple. You are strong enough to make me use ice skin. Ice skin isn't that great." Hansen spoke with a disdainful face. Zui Kuang's eyes went cold. He laughed and slowly approached Hansen. With every step, the frosty aura around him increased. His skin crystallized even further, and the endless chill that encompassed him grew thicker. He was looking more and more like an iceman. Now they stood 3 meters apart. Hansen could already feel the cold air emanating from Zui Kuang. Hansen was surprised, wondering why the ice skin that belonged to the Zhu family could emit frosted air whereas his couldn't. Zui Kuang was getting closer and closer, and his entire image looked frozen. Hansen imagined every cell of his foe's being was now ice. He was like a veritable ice demon. But even though Hansen was in the process of learning the same ice skin, he was actually starting to feel cold. He felt as if there was frost building up inside him. In this world, few evolvers can open their gene locks. Today, you should relish that which the tapestry of fortune has bestowed upon you, the opportunity of death by my first tier of ice skin. Zui Kuang's eyes were so cold as he spoke. When he resumed his punching, it felt as if the air itself was going to solidify. Hansen tried to take a step back, but the fist was too quick and he was unable to dodge it effectively. So, he used his mascot beast sword to fight back. Dong! The fist collided with the sword, and a horrible force of icy power burst forth from Zui Kuang's fist. Within a moment, the mascot beast's sword was wholly consumed by ice, and as if it was a living parasite or infection, it frantically weaved a course down the sword to Hansen himself. Hansen's fingers were the first to feel the assault of this spiteful ice, and he could feel the pulsing of his blood slow down as if it were about to freeze. Hansen was frightened, and he abandoned his sword to fall back. Unfortunately, his fingers remained numb, and they did not obey his wishes. It was like they did not belong to him. It was fortunate that he had learnt ice skin, making use of it. The feel of his fingers returned and the fright of frostbite diminished. What's going on? Zui Kuang has only learnt the first tier of ice skin, but that is what I have learnt as well. How has he managed to open his first gene lock and unleash such power? Well, I cannot. Hansen and his snow lady then combined into one. His heart was beating like mad, and his kidneys were in hyperdrive for the formulation of energy. His legs had received an incredible boost to their speed, and Hansen managed to bob and weave his way past every incoming fist. That day in the exchange event, Hansen heard that a talented evolver could unlock their first gene lock before they became a surpasser, because they lacked the correct fitness level required to fully unlock it. People like that were practically indestructible. Hansen used all of his power to run his ice skin skill, and it was only enough to repel the invasion of the frosty air that sought to consume him. He did not dare touch Zui Kuang's actual body because his ice powers were simply too strong. The talent that I stole really isn't that reliable. It's the same first-tier ice skin, but there is such a big difference. What could have gone wrong? Hansen thought to himself. When he learned ice skin, he did not use a Geno solution. Unless the ice skin Zhu Longyan possessed was fake, what other explanation could there be for it being so weak? Hansen continued to dodge, falling back as he did. Zui Kuang was too fast, though, and he did not dare let Hansen slip away from the battleground he had established. He was putting him in a very dangerous situation. But in the midst of all this, Hansen noticed something quite strange. The frosty air that was bursting out of Zui Kuang was being doused by Hansen's ice skin. He didn't think much of it at first, but after a while, he started to feel that the power he had been suppressing was now inside him. It coursed through his entire body, empowering him. The absorbed frost gathered up in greater and greater amounts, but it did not hurt Hansen. It mixed with his insides, becoming a part of him. Does this mean I can absorb Zui Quan's frosted air? Hansen thought to himself happily. With this absorption of ice power, his ice skin seemed different. Hansen could not put his finger on it exactly, but his body did not seem to be bothered by the plumes of frost Zui Quang continuously emitted. Hansen was wearing his blood scale armor. He threw his own fist to collide with Zui Quang's. He was unsatisfied with the absorption of the atmospheric ice power, and thought the amount he had consumed was not enough. He wanted to see if he could absorb the power right from the source, Zui Quang himself. When the fists connected, however, he felt an overwhelming stock of ice power absorb into his body. Within seconds, his arms, half his body and his entire blood flow became frozen. His exterior was quickly encased in ice, removing his ability to fight or even move. Go die. Zui Quang's eyes burst with a flame of hatred, painting Hansen with the color of murder. One last fist sought to drill itself into Hansen's body. The silver fox on Hansen's shoulder finally moved. Like a silver thunderbolt, it leaped towards his master's enemy and tore into Zui Quang's fist with its talon. With a flash of lightning, the ice that surrounded his fist was shattered, and his entire body was sent flying away. Electricity consumed Zui Quang, and when he hit the ground, his body was adorned with wretched scorch marks. His hand that suffered the date of the talons had been blown to gory bits and pieces, revealing the bone of his arm. Zui Quang looked at the silver fox with utter surprise. He was shocked. The silver fox howled madly, and like an illuminated shadow, it jumped on top of Zui Quang. Zui Quang flailed his arms madly to try to stop the attacking fox, but they did nothing. His chest was torn open with a collection of scratch marks, and blood started gushing like a fountain. The terrifying power of the thunderous fox had shattered every last bit of ice that dressed Zui Quang. The silver fox seemed to be really mad, and it angrily circled Zui Quang like a silver shadow. Thunder and lightning cracked the sky as it observed its master's opponent. Zui Quang, who was so strong, was utterly defenseless under the paws of the silver fox. Once more, the silver fox pounced to pierce its talons into Zui Quang's body, drawing rivers of blood. His body was now a collection of bloody ravines and black, scorch marks. Zui Quang was terrified, repeatedly screaming in fear. The ice power inside him resumed its activity, but without the strength to bear it, he became encased in an icy sarcophagus of his own making. The silver fox had firmly proven the abhorrent power that resided within it, and there was nothing Zui Quang could do to revert the tides of this fight. Zui Quang, who had opened the first gene lock, lacked any remote chance of resisting the attacks of the silver fox. All he could do was watch himself get electrified. Pang! A silver lightning bolt struck Zui Quang's chest. His body was now like charcoal, and he fizzed and crackled with residual electricity. His body convulsed and twisted madly with no refrain. It looked as if he couldn't breathe, and whatever gasps he could manage were going to be amongst his last. The silver fox turned into a silver shadow one last time and bolted over to Zui Quang again. Zui Quang could not even finish his scream before a mighty flash froze him like a black, charcoal statue. As a stiff wind blew, what was once the body of Zui Quang succumbed to a gust and drifted away as nothing more than dust and echoes. So, Zui Quang died just like that. Hansen opened his eyes widely, trying to observe the traces of black dust floating upon the breeze. He had been so used to seeing the silver fox tame, calm, and harmless that he had almost forgotten that it was a fierce super creature. Seeing it become something so scary and violent was quite shocking. He then returned his thoughts to the current state of his body, which was still mostly encased in ice. The blood inside was little more than ice as well. If he couldn't defrost himself soon, he would perish. Hansen slowly turned back on his ice skin, and he felt the ice that covered him start to thaw. It gradually turned into a frosted air that swirled its way into his body. The silver fox quietly sat on the snow beside Hansen. It did not even blink as it observed the ice seep back into the ground as water. The icy air that swirled in and around him started to be expelled, returning to the atmosphere without form. His ice skin became crystal, and his flesh and bones turned transparent. As time passed, the amount of power Hansen expelled got heavier and heavier. The transparency of his flesh and bones increased, and you could now see his veins. As more and more time elapsed, the chilled air within Hansen was becoming stronger and stronger. His cells were moving, but it felt as if they were turning into crystals. At the same time, the Dongsu Sutra started running, and a strange feeling compelled Hansen to stop his practice of ice skin. Hansen's face looked ghastly. He was excited to try to combine the frost air with his own cells and unlock his first gene lock. But not after he started the Dongsu Sutra. Could it be that these two skills contradict each other? Hansen was a little annoyed. If these two skills could not coexist together, it ran the possibility of them frying his mind and turning him crazy. The silver fox watched Hansen wake up, and when he did, it ran towards his legs to rub against them. His foul mood made him push the silver fox away in irritation. Seeing the silver fox's pitiable face, Hansen's heart was given a shock. He pulled out a small mirror that had been prepared for Beetle Night. Looking at himself in the reflection, he did not notice anything strange. When Hansen cast Ice Skin, he felt the chill rise. Although it wasn't as scary as Zui Quang's, it still made some water turn into ice. If this was normal, Hansen would be glad. But when he looked at himself in the mirror again, he saw cold sweat dotting his forehead. He could clearly see in the mirror how his eyes were starting to turn a faint shade of red. While it wasn't stark and obvious to see, a good look would reveal the encroaching color. Hansen thought that his eyes were starting to look like those of the Zhu family, cold, callous, and cruel. Oh my days, what the hell is this skill? This is not right. Normally, I would never kick Silver Fox away, and I wouldn't be so moody. Can that crappy ice skin really change someone's personality? The more Hansen thought about it, the more annoyed he got. He thought about breaking the mirror, and he started to fear something had truly gone wrong with him. He immediately canceled his training of Ice Skin and cast the Dongsu Sutra. He retreated into a state of meditation, which woke up his cells and generated a sweet, pleasing fragrance. The frosty air was chased out by the pleasant smell, out and away from his cells. This generated a white fog around Hansen. He was a beginner of the Dongsu Sutra and he had yet to complete the first tier. It could not rival Ice Skin. And that was proven with the entire hour it took to expunge the frosty power that had gathered inside his body. Hansen continued to sit on the snow, and he repeatedly cast Dongsu Sutra. The silver fox was sitting down near Hansen as well, surveying the area with serious vigilance. He didn't move an inch. The sky became clogged with dreary clouds, and a blizzard began to form all around. Hansen was soon buried in the snow, and it wasn't long until he represented the image of a snowman. The body of the silver fox supported no snow. However, it just maintained its position, awaiting its master's next move. It snowed all day and all night and still, neither Hansen nor the silver fox moved. The snow on Hansen turned to ice, releasing frosted air beneath the sun. Lo, that is a beautiful little fox. Not too far from them, the voice of a woman sounded. Liu King, don't be fooled by its appearance. No matter how cute a creature may look, it is most likely a cruel and despicable monster on the inside. A man and woman trudged through the field of snow, inching closer and closer in the direction of the silver fox. The woman noticed the silver fox didn't move a single inch, and it continued to just sit there. Next to it was a snowman. With unexpected surprise, she said, "Oh, and there is a snowman." The little fox keeps looking at it. Do you think maybe that it built the snowman? Your imagination knows no bounds. Tell me, how might a fox build a snowman? Obviously, that has to be the creation of someone else here. But I will admit that it is a bit strange. Why would the fox just sit there and not move? The man was becoming more curious as well. Let me go check it out. Perhaps it is frozen. The woman secretly wanted to touch the fox. The man quickly pulled her back, saying, "Careful. That thing could be luring us closer, for all we know. It could be a trap. We should just run up there and smack it with our swords. Problem solved, danger averted." After this, he summoned a beast soul sword and started running towards the silver fox, waving the sword as he went. When the man brought his sword down to strike his target, he hit nothing. The snowman next to the silver fox moved. An icy hand reached out, using its middle finger and index finger to stop the fall of the blade. The only noise that sounded was a quick catch-up, and the blade of the beast soul sword was cleanly cut in two by those two fingers. The man and woman were shocked, and so they quickly retreated. Then, they saw the snowman begin to crumble. The human shadow emerged, grabbed the fox, and ran off. Within 2 seconds, they had completely disappeared. "It's a fox fairy," the woman screamed. "What fox fairy? That was just a humanoid creature," the man said, with his face depleted of color. They hadn't seen Hansen's face clearly. Only the shape and shadow of a man grabbing the fox and running off. Yeah, a fox fairy that shapeshifted into a human. The woman could not escape her belief of it being a fox fairy. Regardless, the man and woman did not believe what they had seen was a human. But who could blame them? Why would any man be buried under snowfall and remain like a snowman, only to emerge, grab a fox, and quickly sprint away without leaving a single footprint? This is strange. There must be something wrong. The Zhu family's ice skin must have some sort of problem. This made Hansen remember the speech Zui Yang gave at the exchange event, which pertained to another skill called Ice Heart. It was a Kaigong that was supposed to calm your emotions and put them to rest. People said that everyone in the Zhu family have learnt Ice Heart. But every Zhu family member Hansen had met possessed an angry personality, and this made him think that this Ice Heart had a problem. Hansen was still unsure whether or not his ice skin had issues. Regardless, he decided not to continue practicing it and put it aside. Instead, he moved his focus onto training with the Dongsu Sutra. Hansen wanted to learn the first tier of the Dongsu Sutra sooner now, so he could unlock his first gene lock. Brother Han, are you free today? Could you teach me how to fight? Hansen had just returned to the Black God shelter, and already Kai Ziyuan was fretting for his attention. I don't have the time. I have had deeds of greater importance on my mind recently. Hansen responded. Brother Han, what big things are you looking to do? Kai Ziyuan's eyes possessed a strange look as he questioned Hansen. It'll be a cooperative task with the Star Wheel Shelter and Philip, in which we will take down the Royal Shelter. Hansen casually answered. Brother Han really is a person who does big things. I would like to help, though. I can aid you when the time comes to take on this Royal Shelter you speak of, Kai Ziyuan excitedly said. If you have the heart, I will provide you with the task of enlisting the aid of the Star Wheel Shelter and Philip Shelter. Hansen smiled and looked at Kai Ziyuan fondly. I will not disappoint you. Hansen decided to visit the training room to work on his dual skill while he was still feeling good. Then, he went on Skynet and entered the official battlegrounds. It had been a while since he last logged on, and this time, no one was sending him invites requesting a duel. It looked as if people had given up on him, which made sense, since it had been several months since he last came online. Hansen decided to matchmake, and he was quickly introduced to an opponent. When that person saw Hansen's ID, he was extremely happy. The first thing he did was send a group message to his friends, telling them, guys, I matched with Murderer Coin. Many people entered the lobby to watch. After seeing Hansen's ID, they were all super excited, and everyone kept extending invites to their own friends. Guys, come look. Coin is back. Coin is getting ready to battle. Quick, word quickly spread, and the venue was packed to the brim with people. Hansen had hoped to have a quiet duel, seeing as it had been so long. But after randomly matchmaking, a rabid audience had turned out in droves before the countdown had even finished. When the countdown was over, Hansen and his opponent entered the arena. The man who was to fight Hansen said, Coin, although I am fond of your battle style, I won't go easy on you. I will do my best to beat you in a showing of the respect I have for you. Good? Hansen had no prepared response. This was only going to be a virtual battle. Did things have to be so prim and proper? Did things have to be so wild? After the man said this, he went to punch Hansen. The fists came at him thick and fast, with a fair amount of power packed into each. Light thrust punch, not bad. Hansen was quick to move and dodge the attack, of course. Light thrust punch was the weaker variant of medium thrust punch. Due to its lesser power, it was quicker, but it wasn't as fast as spike jab. When performed correctly, light thrust punch could be cast consecutively, locking an opponent into a position where they could only defend and not attack. Haha, I got you good. That wasn't light thrust punch, it was mechanical fist. After this, the person's whole body began to move. All of a sudden, his body transformed into a lethal weapon. His fists, legs, back, elbows, but feet and knees became horrible weapons, attacking Hansen simultaneously without reprieve. Hansen was surprised, not expecting to come across another elite who knew how to use mechanical fists. Although it was the most popular fist skill, it was incredibly difficult to learn and even harder to master. You needed a very high amount of fitness and practice points to use it, so the number of people that were able to take advantage of the skill was quite low. Mechanical fist was all about turning your body into some sort of a machine, using every part of your composition to fight. Hansen had once seen a video of an elite who was exceptional at using mechanical fist, and could use only his hair to take out an opponent of the same rank. It was a weird thing to see. Earlier, Hansen saw that his opponent's ID was Dancer. He thought he was going to use rather big, open skills to fight. He did not expect him to use strange and delicate skills. Dancer's body showed no restraint as he continued to attack. This strong move outperformed every other fist skill there was, too. When the fist moved, the elbow moved. When the elbow moved, the shoulder moved. When the shoulder moved, the body moved. When the Dancer got in range of Hansen, he could keep attacking. Although the attacks looked strange, they were performed with incredible finesse. With this creepy, raging attack, Hansen could only fall back and dodge Dancer's assault. Tang Zhenliu managed to secure a seat in the audience and watched the fight carefully. His mechanical fist is fairly remarkable. He could be at an expert level of close-distance fighting. Very well done. Lin Feng, who was also there watching, said. Is it really that powerful? Tang Zhenliu inquired inquisitively. Well, it's okay. It can indeed be quite troubling if it gets close to you. Lin Feng smiled and said. If you say it can be troubling at such a close distance, then it must be powerful. I wonder how Dollar will get out of this predicament. Surely, he cannot just keep dodging like that. It wasn't only Lin Feng and Tang Zhenliu who had come to watch, but many others had arrived there in droves to watch the fight. Zidong, who was in the alliance currently, and hearing about the fight with Dollar, made sure to come and watch. He was sitting in the stands and didn't blink once as he watched the battle unfold. Cayenne Hezhen and a few people from the Ares Martial Hall had also come to watch the fight, because people were whispering that Dollar was going to make use of Heavenly Go. Heavenly Go was a secret skill of the Ares Martial Hall. Very few trainees of the Ares Martial Hall would ever learn that skill, so it was only natural for them to desire to see it in action. Cayenne Hezhen invited the queen to come and watch, but she lacked interest in such events and declined the invitation. Ever since Kill Dollar last fought in the arena, a lot of people had come to believe that he was a member of the Ares Martial Hall. After all, if he wasn't, how did he come to possess the skill Heavenly Go? Dancer's flurry of attacks were still coming on strong. In the beginning, people were shocked by the ferocity of his raging assault, but slowly, they came to realize that Dancer did not have as much of an advantage as they initially thought. Bit by bit, Dancer was being pushed into a corner. How could this happen? Dollar was only dodging. How come it is Dancer who has been pushed into a corner? Dollar is Dollar. Even without attacking, he can reign supreme. He is too damn strong. This is amazing. The ordinary folk were shocked by how powerful Dollar was, but the elites had a strange look upon them. Damn, just who is this guy? Cayenne Hezhen was looking frustrated. He suspected that Dollar was doing this to deliberately throw mud at the Ares Martial Hall. Dancer was feeling terrible inside. He had been attacking all this time and yet he was unable to land a single punch or even brush his clothing. It wasn't just that. Either Dancer had come to realize that the space in which he could move around was getting smaller and smaller. The powerful attacks he had were getting harder to perform as a result. Intimidation. Dancer was feeling intimidated. Although the opponent did not attack, the way he was dodging was forcing Dancer to alter his position. This made him think a lot more. Now, if I keep attacking here, all he has to do is reach out his hand. Dancer was getting scared. The way the opponent moved was quite threatening. And this was his weak point. Dollar was forcing him to change his skill. The people who were watching could observe this strange scene. Pang. In the end, Dancer had nowhere else to go and his back was now against the wall of the arena. He no longer cared much to attack. Tang. Dollar threw a punch to attack Dancer's weak spot, killing him outright. That was too strong. He killed him in a punch. Dollar really is Dollar. The Dollar is real. The level gap was too far. They were nowhere close to each other. People were discussing what had just happened. Many hopped into matchmaking in the hopes of being the next to go against Dollar. Try it. See if you can match with him. Tang Zhenliu also jumped into matchmaking. Dongwu did not hesitate to matchmake. Cayenne Hezhen and the people from the Ares Martial Hall were of the same mind, as well. Hansen did indeed decide to have another fight, thinking there was no point in leaving without warming up. Dongwu, Tang Zhenliu saw who had been selected to go against Dollar and was flabbergasted. He then laughed and said, they really are inseparable. So many people are matchmaking at the same time, but look who ends up being the one to fight him next. They really are meant to fight each other. This is going to be fun. I wonder how much progress Dongwu has made in the past few years. It wasn't just Tang Zhenliu who recognized Dongwu. Many others did so too, with wide eyes and mouths agape. No one expected that after all these years, Dongwu went up against Dollar again. People who had seen their last fight were extremely excited, and they started screaming in anticipation. Those who didn't know about it asked around, and when they heard of what had transpired, became just as feverish. Fang Mingquan, who heard the news and quickly came to see, was streaming this fight. His whole body became excited at the prospect of those two fighting once again. God, what am I seeing? Dongwu. It's Dongwu. After all these years, could this fight prove to be Dongwu's much desired revenge? Dongwu did not use the face blur function, and his cold and proud face was on display for all to see. He is so handsome. This is like a scene from Hamlet. I hope Dongwu can finally exact his revenge. A woman watched Dongwu, her face blushing red. Yeah, he's too handsome. Dongwu has to win this fight. Dongwu is like the man from my dreams. Before he gets his revenge, I want him to make a baby with me. Move aside, you slut. Big brother, he is mine. The women, keen to gauge men on their appearances alone, were practically salivating over Dongwu. As they all drooled, they looked ready to eat the man alive. Such comments made the single men angry, and so they rallied all their support behind Dollar. You women don't know anything. Who cares about appearance? True worth is in power and muscle. Dollar once killed Idong with a single strike. Today will just be a repeat. Yeah, you all take a good look at Dollar. This is what an elite should look like, dressed in black, nothing fanciful. This is what a real man looks like. If you want to be a man, look like Dollar. Don't try and be some pretty boy like he. Our Dollar is indestructible and cannot be spent. He will end Idong in a single blow. Dollar, let me be the one to make babies for you. Hansen listened in on the comments during the countdown and felt as if something was wrong. Why were all the pretty girls supporting Idong, and the only ones supporting him were big, rough men? A few men sat in seductive positions, chanting their desire to produce babies for Hansen, which made his skin crawl. Fang Minquan was chief commentator on live stream, stating, "It would appear no one has forgotten that glorious fight. The young men who watched that event back in the day are the primary evolvers of today. That fight went down in history as a paramount event of the battleground, and it is not something that will ever be forgotten. Although I personally place my bets on and support the almighty Dollar, I would like to see Idong achieve more this time, and not end up wallowing like a sad prince through a second defeat. Brother Quan, this is not right. If you are a fan of Dollar, how can you say something in support of Idong?" Someone commented, "It is because, there are too many women supporting Idong. If I don't maintain some impartiality, his lady fans might all turn on me. I don't want to be single forever." Fang Minquan had opened both of his hands innocently as he scrambled for a response. Haha. When the countdown was over, Idong and Hansen entered the arena. Idong did not rush to strike. He just stood there, staring at Hansen without a word. And that's what they both did. They just stood and watched each other. As people observed the confrontation, they did so with bated breath. Idong broke the long silence. "If I win, tell me who you are." His simple request impacted the audience. People had been guessing Dollar's identity for what seemed like forever, yet no one had come close. His identity was something everyone wanted to know. During the peak of Dollar's popularity, experts analyzed every aspect of the enigmatic character to try and determine his real identity. But again, no one had been able to find out. After Idong said this, the crowd's focus turned to Hansen. They all hoped he would oblige Idong's request. "Okay," Hansen said this single word, and the audience exploded with countless screams, like a boiling kettle. "Idong, I support you. Kill Dollar. Take him down. Take him down. Take him down." Hansen then continued, "But I have a counter-proposal, one for if I am the victor." Hansen was confident in his abilities and didn't think he could lose. He knew Idong too well, whereas his opponent didn't. It was almost impossible for Hansen to lose. "Okay, tell me." Idong's face remained motionless as he continued to simply stare at Hansen. If one didn't know any better, it would be possible to believe Hansen was the love of his life. "If you lose, this will be our final fight," Hansen said. Idong did not know Hansen was Dollar, and yet they had grown to be good friends. Still, he kept searching for Hansen to be his training partner. But now that Hansen was back to being Dollar, the accidental deceit made him feel a bit guilty. That is why Hansen made this proposal, so he could avoid having to fight him as Dollar once more. "Okay." Idong's eyes remained fixated on Hansen, as they had for a long time. After Idong said okay, the audience was excited, but they were just as nervous. If Idong lost this time, then the years-long battle between these two enemies would never repeat. The women who were supporting Idong did not say a word, as their nerves were racked. And then, they watched Idong slowly unsheath his daggers. "Do you think Idong agreed too quickly?" Tang Zhenliu was quite surprised. Lin Feng calmly said, "Idong had no choice but to agree." "Why?" Tang Zhenliu did not understand and looked at Lin Feng for clarification. "Idong has learned an assassin's skill. The principles of an assassin hinge on the dedication to move forward and never go back. Make it or break it. Their fealty to this pledge can never change. If he did not agree, then it would reveal doubt. Without absolute confidence in your abilities, the principles of the assassin are broken. If that happened, defeat would be guaranteed. This is why Idong had to agree. And now, he will use every ounce of his power in his attempt to take down Dollar," Lin Feng explained. That is why. Dollar is quite manipulative, then." Tang Zhenliu had only just realized this. As they spoke, the fight began. "Mr. Long, what are your thoughts concerning this fight?" Fang Minquan, the commentator, had with him a very famous evolver as a guest on the broadcasts. This Mr. Long was known to any person who frequented the official evolver's platform. He was over 100 years old and had made countless instructional videos to help out fresh evolvers, teaching them how to perform skills and hunt creatures. I haven't studied Idongmu much, but I have researched extensively and analyzed his battle tapes. At this time, Idongmu made a move towards Hansen. Mr. Long, who was watching Idongmu's casual demeanor as he strolled, expressed absolute surprise. In his reaction, he blurted out, "Ha, Mr. Long, what is going on?" Although Fang Mingquan was a professional commentator, he didn't know much about fighting skills. It was because of this that he did not notice anything special. Mr. Long said with admiration in his voice, "If I am not mistaken, Yidongmu is using sacrifice. My knowledge of fighting skills is limited, so I'm not entirely sure what sacrifice is. Could you provide me and the audience an explanation of why sacrifice is so spectacular? To use sacrifice, you must throw away all the other thoughts that might occupy your mind. You need to be without fear, without worry, without sorrow, and without happiness. Your mind must devote itself to one singular purpose. If you do this, then you can achieve mastery of sacrifice, and it will aid you. Every step he takes will accelerate his momentum and increase the power he can achieve. The more steps he takes, the more power and momentum he can use. If he reaches 100 steps, then his power and momentum will max out. If that were to occur, I don't think there is anyone out there who could stop such an attack. Is it really that powerful? If Yidongmu takes 100 steps, then will lose." When Fang Mingquan heard this, he was shocked. "I think what Mr. Long says makes sense. Look at Yidongmu's momentum. It's getting stronger and stronger. Even right now, my heart trembles. Is sacrifice really that powerful? Oh no. Doesn't know Yidongmu is using sacrifice. He should strike now, before he gathers too much momentum." Mr. Long shook his head and said, "It is easier for someone to make up his mind to die for a noble purpose than to actually go through the execution of such sacrifice. Sacrifice still needs its user to maintain his focus for the entire duration of the cast. The longer he walks, the greater the chance his faith and focus might change. If his resolve quivers by only just a bit, his momentum will decrease. It is very much like war. First, there is much momentum, but when the horrors of battle rear their ugly faces, it's gone before you know it. The highest sacrifice I have seen was 100 steps. Even if he kept on walking after this, his momentum would still decrease. I wonder how many steps Yidongmu will be able to take with his usage of sacrifice." Fan Mingquan was watching Yidongmu intently. After Mr. Long's explanation, viewers of the stream started counting Yidongmu's steps. 10 steps, 20 steps, 30 steps. Everyone could calculate that the distance between Yidongmu and Hansen was about 50 steps. If Hansen still did not strike, then Yidongmu would be right in front of him in about 50 more steps. Yidongmu had only walked 30 steps, yet his momentum had already risen a great deal. It was as if he had been possessed by a god. With every step, his momentum increased. The momentum in his body was illuminating him with some form of angelic light, and it frightened those who were watching. "He's going to strike." Everyone had stopped breathing, and they observed Yidongmu without any idea what his attack was going to be like. When the distance between the two fighters had reached a mere 2 steps, Hansen finally moved. But he didn't go forward. Instead, he went back. He fell back like a rowboat that had been rocked away by a tumultuous sea. Hansen refaced Yidongmu with a calm look, in stark contrast to the fiery appearance of Yidongmu. Now, they were only 1 step away from each other. "Beautiful. Is a smart guy. He made the right choice." Mr. Long complimented Hansen's action. "Mr. Long thinks did a good thing." Fang Mingquan looked at Mr. Long with a confused expression. "Yes, it was a clever retreat." Mr. Long looked excited as he continued. "Earlier, I said what was most important about sacrifice was the momentum. If you reach max capacity, you will only get worse and worse. Yidongmu has already walked 53 steps, and he has already gathered a lot of power and momentum. If chooses to fight back with him right now, it'd be a bad decision. When he fell back just now, it opened up a great set of possibilities and opportunities. If he keeps avoiding Yidongmu up until sacrifice weakens, that would be the time for him to strike." It is a beautiful response, one that proves how smart and wise a fighter he is. After hearing Mr. Long's profound analysis, everyone watching understood. This means Yidongmu will have to catch up with before his momentum decreases. Otherwise, it will be difficult to win. The strongest person I have ever seen only managed to walk 100 steps. If Yidongmu can catch up with with 100 momentum building steps, the power unleashed from a hit of that force may be unavoidable. That would utterly wreck and annihilate However, if he cannot catch up by the time he hits 100, there is a 90% chance will have already won. Everyone was intently focused on these two characters, who were chasing each other around the arena. 60, 70, 80. Everyone quietly counted each step to themselves. Every step was like a jump scare, frightening their hearts. Through the power of his momentum and strength, Idongwu's speed became frightening. And he was only continuing to get faster. Can Idongwu really catch up with Dollar before he reaches his 100th step? 85, 90, 95, 100. Hansen turned around and started walking, but Idongwu did not catch up. After taking his 100th step, everyone's heart sighed. Idongwu was brimming with insane power, but Dollar's strategy had worked. He had made it too hard for Idongwu to use his true strength. After 100 steps, everyone feared Idongwu's momentum would fall into insignificance, and he'd be unable to catch up with Dollar at all. Although people thought Dollar was going to win, Dollar's fans were a little disappointed. This form of winning lacked the certain spice they had come to expect, and it lacked excitement. But people then realized that after 100 steps, Idongwu's momentum did not weaken. Instead, it was continuing to increase by a scary amount. He was like a god, and he came at Hansen with greater ferocity. 110, 115, 120. Oh my days. It is too powerful. It is too powerful. A 120-step sacrifice. And this insane momentum continues to grow. Idongwu's approach towards Hansen was crazy, and everyone's heart leapt with each step taken. A feverish excitement had grabbed a hold of their hearts, as if it tugged them to run alongside Idongwu together. Boom! 150. Idongwu's body cracked the air in two, sounding thunder. His hair trailed in the wind of his pursuit, hunting after Hansen like some mad god of lightning. His body had reached maximum capacity, and it seemed as if it would even be able to tear the space by a single strike. And it was at this moment that Hansen stopped. He was moving incredibly quickly, but when he stopped all of a sudden, he became a mountain, allowing the waves to shatter against his body. After all these steps, Idongwu's momentum had reached its maximum. Kill. In this final step, Idongwu no longer resembled a human being. Following his raging sprint, with his long mane of hair riding the violent winds of his passing, the daggers in his hands moved. In this moment, everyone understood Dollar wasn't falling back. He did not fear his opponent, and he wasn't employing the strategy Mr. Long had been talking about. All this time he had just been waiting for Idongwu to reach his prime and unleash his most powerful attack. The audience that were in their seats couldn't help but stand up and lean forward with their mouths open to watch Idongwu perform his final strike. Idongwu's momentum and power had reached maximum capacity, and now, the daggers in his hands finally moved. They traveled at an unimaginable speed, quicker than the wind. You cannot touch the wind, nor can you see it. The beginning and then end of that strike was untraceable. Although everyone knew Idongwu was going to strike, when he actually did it, people thought their eyes were playing tricks, as the strike launched out of nowhere. Its speed was so great, people could not follow the blade and its driving hand. But a collective gasp of shock was still given by the entire audience. Following the tantalizing moment, chills ran down their spines and their faces were drawn of their color. It was as if the spectators themselves each suffered the same strike. Everyone was eager for the result. The scary power of a 150-step sacrifice had built up within a soul man, and it had been delivered to a single opponent through a blade. They did not know how Hansen could survive it. Hansen's hand did not possess a weapon, and in this terrifying moment, he placed the palms of his hands together like a praying Buddha. His eyes did not even look at the knife come his way, and still he looked so calm and so chill. It was in fascinating contrast to Idongwu's raging, intimidating aura. The people who watched it felt really bad. The extreme attack by Idongwu, the final strike of sacrifice and the blade of its deliverance, found itself caught and wedged between Hansen's palms. It was at that moment the storm stopped and the air became gentle. The excitement that had built up was now empty. Silence robbed the room of its life, and it was as if time stood still. The brutal attack had been stopped by a man's bare hands. Everyone's mouth dropped. They scoured the canvas of that scene in absolute shock. No one was able to believe or accept that the strike that had received so much build-up was now over. It was like a truck going over 200 miles per hour being brought to an instant stop without any prior sign. The audience felt strange, and they could hardly accept what their eyes told them. Even if a vehicle was going at 200 miles per hour, slowing down to stop would take some noticeable time. And even if such a truck had smashed into a wall, considerable damage would be dealt to both objects. But nothing happened here. Everything just came to an instant stop. Hansen moved his hand to grab the dagger. He returned it to Idongwu and said, "I accept the passion behind this strike. This life, this world, this sky, this earth, this single strike." Hidongmu's body was shaking. He took the dagger and turned a complicated look on Hansen. The battle did not continue. Hansen quit the virtual platform. Hidongmu and Dollar left, and although the fighters had not determined who was the victor and who was the loser, everyone knew it in their hearts. Fang Minquin gave a long sigh. Feeling sorry, he said, "This attack determines life and death, but for now, they are strangers. One battle fought by two legends. This is something that we will never witness again." Hearing Fang Minquin say this, everyone's mood turned a bit dim. Because Dollar and Hidongmu made their arrangement, they would never fight again. This was their final match. Almost everyone who watched this fight rewatched it a number of times. But no matter how many times they watched it, they were parched and thirsty for more. They watched it again and again, unable to stop. What happened to Hidongmu is a shame. The passion behind this strike, I want to see it again. I have to see it again. Poor Prince, I am willing to give up 10 years of my life for the opportunity to watch those two fight again. I accept the passion behind this strike. I am going to cry. Dollar was too cruel and he robbed Hidongmu of his soul. After Fang Minquin returned to his office, he sorted out the video recording of the battle. It did not need editing. It only needed a title and an article to go alongside it. But this article was not for Dollar, it was for Hidongmu, Assassin King. This life and this world never end. This sky, this earth, and this single strike. To see the cruel rain all these years, only Hidongmu's passion was the most touching. This is for my favorite assassin King Hidongmu. For the result of this fight, few people mentioned Dollar. Most of the talk was directed to Hidongmu. Even though he didn't win, the passion behind that strike touched the hearts of all who had seen it. It led to him being given the title Assassin King. But as for Dollar, he was already an unbeatable deity, and people no longer had any interest in talking about him anymore. Watching Dollar battle is so boring. I want to watch Hansen battle Hidongmu. Two assassins fighting each other would be pretty fun. Kang Zhenliu sat on his sofa rewatching the video of Hidongmu and Dollar's final battle. A battle between two assassins would be too fatal, Lin Feng said quietly. That's why it would be exciting. But those two don't have a grudge with each other, so the chance of them fighting would be pretty low. It is a shame, though. Tang Zhenliu felt remorseful. The two people that Tang Zhenliu spoke about were in the shelter, 1 meter apart. I am going to hunt a red-scale dragon. Do you want to come? Hidongmu looked at Hansen and asked. That is too dangerous. Hansen blinked. The red-scale dragon that Hidongmu mentioned was a powerful sacred blood creature. Even with the powers they both possessed, it would be an incredibly difficult fight. It is dangerous, that is why I am going. Hidongmu turned to leave as he spoke. Then let's go. Hansen knew that Hidongmu's spirit had been crushed. He didn't say much. He just followed Hidongmu to the slopes of a particularly snowy mountain. Hidongmu killed the creatures along the way in one hit. Seeing him angry like that, Hansen began to believe it may have been better if he had thrown the match and lost. But Hidongmu was really powerful, and if it wasn't for Hansen's constant practice of wind strike with him, he most likely would not have been able to block the skill. The wind didn't feel entirely clean, and it made Hansen feel a little ashamed. Before long, they both reached the cap of the mountain where the red-scale dragon was said to reside. From afar, they saw a creature that looked like a T-Rex on the slopes of the mountain, curled up and sleeping in the snow. Because it had not yet been given a name, it was Hidongmu who called it red-scale dragon. According to him, the power and speed of the creature were incredibly high, and even with sacred blood weaponry, its scales would be extremely difficult to penetrate. He had come near twice before attempting to kill it, but had failed both times. But today, Hidongmu had clearly resolved not to be beaten again. He was going to kill it, no matter what it took. Hidongmu summoned his beast soul daggers and ran towards the red-scale dragon. He was shouting all the way, and it gave Hansen a cold sweat. Geez, you are an assassin. What is wrong with you, running in with a battle cry like some brutish warrior? Hansen felt deflated, but still, he summoned his silver eye snake king sword and ancient mascot sword and ran to the other side of the red-scale dragon, which was now rising from its slumber. Hansen and Hidongmu's weapons were slashing the red-scale dragon with ardent ferocity, but their strikes only left shallow scratches in the dragon's scales. The creature was unharmed. The red-scale dragon was like a mechanical truck that kept sprinting up and down the slopes of that mountain. It was so fast and fierce that Hidongmu and Hansen could only dodge again and again, unable to get in hits from the front. He'd go draw its attention. Hidongmu barked the order at Hansen before running behind the red-scale dragon. Why don't you draw its attention? Hansen felt frustrated, but he still waved his two blades to hack at the red-scale dragon's legs. He managed to obtain the red-scale dragon's attention, and with a capped aggro, was promptly chased all over the mountainside. Hidongmu found the perfect opening and managed to leap onto its head from behind. He repeatedly stabbed the creature in its neck, the only spot that wasn't plated in thick scales. Roar! The red scale dragon thundered its agony. It shook its head and threw Idongmu down into the snow. Then the red scales of the dragon burst into flames. As they seared in fire, the scales turned to crystal. Holy smokes, it's turning berserk. Run, Hansen yelled, and then started running away. Although Idongmu's mood was foul, he wasn't stupid. He joined Hansen and ran as fast as his legs could carry him. But the red scale dragon was furious. It chased them over the mountains and valleys for over 100 miles before they finally lost the monster on their heels. Idongmu and Hansen felt as if their legs were ready to snap by the time they outran their pursuer. Gasping in unison, they collapsed to the ground for respite. After a while, Idongmu said, "You are going to attack the royal shelter." "Yes." Hansen looked at Idongmu and then continued, "You want to join me. Be careful of Kai Ziyuan." After Idongmu issued his warning, he got up and turned to leave. Hansen remained sitting in the snow. He shook his head and said, "I don't know if Kai Ziyuan convinced Lai Zinglun and then Philip to join me yet. But I have to take down that royal shelter as soon as I possibly can." Hansen remained unconcerned about Kai Ziyuan. With the silver fox around him most of the time, he knew no evolver could cause him great harm. No one across the ice fields, at least. Before the terrifying power of the silver fox, all conspiracies would be useless against him. Hansen then got up but noticed something moving in the snow up ahead. He stayed as still as he could, trying to figure out what he had just seen. He saw something move around in the snow, and after a while, a big white turtle came out from under the powdery snow. The turtle was pretty large. After it emerged from the snow, it poked its head about to look around. It seemed to be searching for something. Hansen watched the turtle from a good distance, but he could see where it had come from. Behind it there was an ice cave that appeared to have been flooded. The surface of the water was mostly ice, and it was dressed in thick snow, so it took a decent pair of eyes to see it. The big turtle wasn't looking for Hansen, and after it walked around in a few circles, it returned to the cave it had emerged from. It then dipped its head into the water. Whether it was drinking or not remained to be seen. A while later, the turtle pulled its head back and simply looked into the ice cave. Hansen thought it was a strange sight, so he sat back down and continued his observation in greater comfort. After some time had passed, another turtle came out of the water in the cave. But compared to the first turtle, this turtle was much smaller. It was like a small rice bowl. After this small turtle exited the water, many more followed. At final count, 9 turtles came out of the water of the ice cave. Hansen, who was hiding in the snow, opened his eyes wide and said, "These cannot be the babies of the big turtle, right?" Hansen was aware that it was a difficult task for creatures to breed. He had only ever seen a golden growler, an old turtle, and an obsidian dragon give birth, and their litters were incredibly small, usually singular. Yet this big turtle had 8 baby turtles behind it. If they were its children, those numbers were crazy. After the 8 turtles came out to join the big turtle led them down to a wide basin below the snow-cloaked mountain. Watching the trio of turtles take off on their little adventure, Hansen could not help but admire them and think they were rather cute. Hansen did not know the details of the snow turtles he had just seen and could not tell what tier of monster they could be considered. So, all he did was hide in the snow and watch. After the big turtle reached the basin below the mountain, it used its claws to dig into the snow. Hansen watched as it slowly unearthed red mushrooms. Then, when the smaller turtles arrived, they each happily started eating their bounty of food. Hansen was amazed. Seeing a creature bring its children to eat was an incredibly rare sight, one that few people would ever be given the honor of seeing. When the snow turtles began to dig into their food, the screech of a bird came out of the sky. A golden bird dropped into view. As if it had been searching for the turtles, it came down at an extremely high speed with its talons raised and ready to snatch them. Before the threatening bird reached them, the big snow turtle shot a beam of frost towards it. In the next second, the bird turned into a block of ice. From the height it fell, it hit the ground hard and shattered into nothing but bits and pieces. Holy smokes, it's a super creature. Hansen was staring at the turtle with wide eyes. This was the first time Hansen had ever seen such a large amount of super creature babies all in one place. There were 8 of them, and now Hansen was afraid to even breathe. The last thing he wanted was for the snow turtle to take notice of his presence. The silver fox was frighteningly powerful, even as a baby. But here, there were 8 super creature children and their mother. Seeing the golden bird shatter into crumbs of ice, Hansen felt a shiver run down his spine. Being afraid to breathe, he gave the task over to his cells so he could continue watching the 9 turtles eat. After the small turtles ate the red mushrooms, the bodies of the creatures started to glow red. At first, the turtles were as white as the snow itself. but now they looked like blood turtles. The small turtles were really young, as their size suggested. Thus, they couldn't eat much, and after eating a mushroom about the size of a man's fist, they were full. But the big turtle was really hungry, and it ate about 10 mushrooms before it turned red. It looked like the turtles were all satisfied, and when they were, the big turtle buried the red mushrooms beneath the snow again. Then it led the small turtles back to the ice cave where they had first emerged. Hansen waited for a while longer, and when he confirmed there was no more movement, he ran to the area where the snow turtles had eaten and dug his way down to the red, fist-sized mushrooms. They seemed like mushrooms you would cook. They were the size of a fist, and they glistened with a sparkling clarity. They also emanated a lovely smell, and Hansen wagered they would taste pretty good. Hansen used to follow a certain botanist, and through him, he learned many of the tips and tricks one could use to identify plants, herbs, and mushrooms. He looked at the red mushrooms and noticed there were only 3 left. The rest had already been eaten by the turtles, but judging from the way they looked, they didn't seem poisonous. There were many strange plants back at the shelter that Hansen wouldn't dare eat. Hansen pulled out a bag and picked a single mushroom to put inside it. He didn't take any more, but he prepared to take the mushroom with him, thinking it might become useful. He covered the others with snow once again and summoned his golden growler. He collected and reassembled the body of the shattered bird and placed it upon the golden growler. It looked like a sacred blood creature, and even if it was only a mutant, Hansen didn't want to waste it. This was free stuff that he wasn't going to pass up. Back inside the Crystal Palace, Hansen asked Zero to cook the golden bird's meat. Then, he heard the announcement, Sacred Blood Golden Wing Bird flesh has been consumed. Sacred Geno points obtained is 0, because he ate so little. He was unable to increase his Sacred Geno point total. But that still made Hansen quite happy. Although he had failed to hunt the red scale dragon, the free collection of the Sacred Blood Golden Wing Bird made up for it. He ate a whole meal of the Sacred Blood Golden Wing Bird. But his point total did not increase. There was still a lot of meat left, however, so Hansen prepared it and got ready to eat it all slowly. The bird wasn't that big, after all, so he figured he would be able to eat it all within 10 days. Back in the Alliance, Hansen found a way he could contact Professor Sun Minghua. Although Professor Sun had spent his entire life in the First God's Sanctuary, he had yielded incredible results for the world of botany, and this was something few would understand. Hansen gave him the details of the red mushroom he had collected and told him about the turtles. He wanted the professor to find out whether or not the mushrooms possessed any beneficial traits that would apply to him. The shelter's plants have great power. They should be quite effective on humans, but the bodies of humans are very different. It is difficult to say whether the effects will benefit you or ail you. After that, Professor Sun stopped. He hesitated for a while, but then began talking to Hansen again. In the Third God's Sanctuary, there are some amazing plants that can improve your genes. But still, humans have yet to fully uncover which are beneficial and which are harmful. If humans cannot determine the effects a plant will impart, how can we find out which ones can improve a human's genes? I won't answer this question, but after you visit the Third God's Sanctuary, you will understand. Professor Sun seemed to dodge Hansen's question, and he quickly changed the subject. Hansen, after my analysis, I have come to the conclusion that the red mushroom you discovered is a provision that can increase one's vitality. It's not the most in-depth research result, but I would suggest that you try it out yourself. Eat a little bit and see what happens. You don't think there'll be any problems with it, do you? Hansen felt a little strange, for he would feel bad eating this in the shelter. Just eat a little bit, no more than 10 grams of the stuff. But be prepared. If something does go wrong and it doesn't sit well in your stomach, make sure you have an alchemical concoction to help flush it out. But from what I can see, it should not be harmful. If it really is something that can strengthen your body, then go for it. Just don't eat too much, lest it bring you harm. I'll think about it. Hansen did not dare to say he would indeed try eating it. It's a shame I don't know anyone out on the ice field. If I did, I could have someone accompany you and help test it out, Professor Sun said in a remorseful tone of voice. But what Professor Sun had just said gave Hansen an idea. If he did not want to take the risk of eating it, why not find someone else to do it for him? That Juting has deadly perfume. It should be no problem for a toxic man like that to try it out. I'll get him to give it a go, Hansen thought, deciding Juting would be his guinea pig. Juting had to be the tester, for if it was someone closer with Hansen and something went wrong, Hansen couldn't handle the responsibility of bringing harm to his friends. Besides, Juting was known to eat poison like he had a sweet tooth for the stuff, so there was no one more qualified to try out the red mushroom than him. Anyway, he prepared a few different dishes and invited Juting over for dinner. Come, let's drink together this night. Hansen dragged Zhu Ting over to sit down, speaking with overbearing friendliness. Zhu Ting looked at Hansen with an extremely puzzled expression, thinking, why would this guy invite me over for dinner? He must be conspiring against me or something. Is the food poisoned? Does he want to poison me? Ha, is that it? No way, he's not that stupid. Surely, he knows I have deadly perfume and I am immune to poison. He must have dropped his brain somewhere if he has thought to poison me. Hansen was acting all nice, dishing Zhu Ting as much food as he could, topping up his drink after every swig. Brother Zhu, have you gotten used to living out here on the ice field? If you are having issues, feel free to confide in me. I may not be able to help you with big things, but if it's something relatively small, I'll do what I can to make your life here all the more comfortable. Zhu Ting then retreated back into his mind and said to himself, something here is not right. This guy must be buttering me up because he needs me for something. There is no way he's being this nice out of the kindness of his heart. Zhu Ting rolled his eyes and then boisterously thought, fine. If you have something you want to ask of me, and you're even going so far as to call me brother, I am going to be the boss. Brother Han, if there is something you want, just tell me. I dug up some mushrooms out on the ice field. I would like you try some out and tell me whether or not they are poisonous. I know you have deadly perfume, which makes you immune. You are only going to give me 10,000 for doing something as dangerous as that. Zhu Ting peered at Hansen with an expression that painted him as a bona fide cheap bastard. Oh no. Hansen slapped his lap. Oh no, what? Zhu Ting looked spooked. Why didn't you say something earlier? I thought you had already agreed, and see, I have already served you the food. Hansen was wearing his innocent face. You bastard. Zhu Ting's face started turning green. Zhu Ting was not afraid of being poisoned. It was just that Hansen was toxic enough himself. Brother Zhu, don't you worry. Your deadly perfume is the best. There is no need for you to fear those little mushrooms. Even if they are poisonous, there is no way they can poison you. The Poison King. Yes. Hansen did his best to comfort him. I suppose, Zhu Ting said cockily. But then he changed his face and said, but this is different. I know I am good, but good or bad, 10,000 is not enough. No problem. I am willing to raise the monetary offering for this kind service of yours to a whopping 20,000. Hansen said with a smile. Something is wrong. What is it? Is it the poison? Don't worry, I have medicine prepared. Quickly, shove this down your throat and I'll get you on your way to the detox center so they can rinse out your bowels. Brother Zhu, don't look at me like that. I thought your deadly perfume rendered you immune to fatal poisons. Who knew? Before Hansen could finish his sentence, Zhu Ting started to tear the clothes from his body. Much to his surprise, a muscular body was revealed beneath. Geez, what are you doing? Hansen reached out his hands to ward off Zhu Ting from coming any closer. Zhu Ting's eyes were red with lust, and as he advanced on Hansen, he tried to get on top of him to rip his clothes off. Zhu Ting tried to kiss him with the ferocity of a horny bear. I want. Zhu Ting moaned and groaned in between his mumbling. Holy smokes. Those mushrooms can't be aphrodisiacs, can they? Hansen pushed Zhu Ting away from him and dashed out of the room. He closed the door on his lusty aggressor and locked it tight. Zhu Ting hammered the stone door like a madman. Brother Zhu, hold on. I'm going to get you a woman. Hansen was glad that the shelter's doors were made of stone. Due to the strength needed to break down such a door, there was no way Zhu Ting would be able to escape. I can't take it anymore. Zhu Ting screamed from behind his stone ward. Hold on. Use your hand first, while I go search for a woman in the meantime. After walking around Black God's shelter for some time, Hansen came across an impoverished woman who was willing to sell her body to make ends meet. On a horse, she returned with Hansen. Brother Zhu, I have brought a woman to take care of all your needs. As Hansen opened the door, he saw Zhu Ting sprawled out across the floor with a few shreds of cloth over his body. Crumpled balls of tissue lay scattered around the room. Hansen, are you even a human being? I cannot believe you fed me horny pills. Zhu Ting was furious, and he ran towards Hansen, trying to grab him by the neck. Hansen dodged the incoming assault and tried to reason with him, saying, Brother Zhu, see, I have brought you a woman. But who would have guessed you'd finish up that quickly, eh? Quick, my ass. You were out there for 2 hours, and here I was, all alone and almost bleeding. And besides, what kind of woman did you even bring me? This fat tramp looks to weigh 200 kilograms. Is it a mutant creature? Zhu Ting yelled angrily at Hansen. A woman with a little booty is good, you'll never understand. Give me my money. Hansen reached into his pockets and presented Zhu Ting with a few $1,000 bills, regretting what he had subjected Zhu Ting to. He said, I know I was only supposed to give you 20,000, but take 30. Consider it my way of apologizing and trying to make up for what I just put you through. No one wants your pity money. If you want to give me something, give me your medicine. Give me more of your red medicine. Why? What do you want it for? Hansen opened his eyes wide and looked at Zhu Ting. That is none of your business. You owe me, don't you? Consider this retribution, Zhu Ting said, with a scolding temperament. Zhu Ting then told Hansen that the mushroom worked not only to heighten your desire for sexual activity, but to considerably strengthen your kidneys as well. The effects were powerful that even now, his kidneys were really warm. It was as if he had 2 hot water bottles inside him. He was brimming with so much energy that, even after playing with himself for so long, he was yet to feel tired. This stuff really is the good stuff. The red mushroom had incredible effects, and if he was to consume an entire mushroom, Hansen wondered if he might be able to finish his study of Jade Sun Force. But the most blatant side effect of the mushroom was quite tempting for Hansen. If he got Jai Yanran to eat it, he pondered what might happen. Still, he wasn't able to bring the red mushroom out of the shelter, and Jai Yanran was nowhere near the ice field. In the end, Hansen did not give the last bit of red mushroom to Zhu Ting. The sexual effects of the thing were too scary. It was so powerful that not even deadly perfume could withstand it. Hansen was worried Zhu Ting might use the red mushroom for an ill purpose, so he refused to hand it over. Zhu Ting left angrily. He collected the 30,000 and cursed Hansen numerous times before leaving. Hansen then returned to his room and locked his door. He looked at the last piece of mushroom in his hand. He looked and looked until at last, he put it in his mouth. He chewed it a bit, and soon the pleasant feel of it in his teeth became a warmth in his belly. His kidney was already quite warm, and now it was even warmer. It was as if he had 2 little stoves inside him, generating an endless supply of energy. At the same time, Hansen felt the entirety of his body heat up. What was below the belt could hold up the sky. He was starting to feel horny, and he was overwhelmed with the desire to rip his clothes off. Hansen gritted his teeth and held off on that feeling, casting Jade Sun Force as he did. He wanted to use Jade Sun Force to absorb the power of the red mushroom. As he did this, someone knocked on the door. From behind it, a woman's voice called out to him. Hansen was shocked as a burning sensation overwhelmed his insides. His kidneys were sizzling with heat, and it felt as if they had become 2 fireballs ricocheting around his body. Hansen did not feel good. Damn it, why are you coming here at this time? Hansen did not have the willpower necessary to suppress the riot that was going on inside him. Hansen was in a trance. He couldn't hear who it was outside or what the feminine voice was talking about. But regardless, he did not need to listen because Hansen could guess who it was. Visitors to his room were infrequent, as it was something few would dare to do. It was only on the odd occasion that young Manly would come to visit him, when there were important matters to discuss. Aside from her, there was no one else. Thinking about young Manly's thick, white legs, Hansen felt his brain start to implode. He couldn't take his mind off those delicious legs, and he wanted nothing more than to kick the door down and hop onto her. He used everything he had to suppress his lust and double-timed it on the Jade Sun Force. He was going to do his best to wait this desire out. If he was able to avoid seeing her, then Hansen was of firm faith that he could beat this lusty force that was consuming him. But Hansen's heart suffered a shock quite quickly when he heard the door open. Holy smokes, young Manly, I thought you were a reserved person. What is going on with you today? Hansen's mind was scrambled like an egg, and his heart was ablaze. He heard the footsteps of a woman tread across his room. Although Hansen was forcing his eyes closed, when he heard her voice, the resolve of his will crumbled to the machinations of lust. The image of a woman's beautiful naked body was omnipresent, layered across all of his thoughts. As he tried to suppress the carnal desires, his face started turning red. Then his nose began bleeding. The woman was walking closer and closer to Hansen, which almost made him scream out and call for aid. The effects of the red mushroom were too powerful. Zhu Ting was known to possess a strong will, but even he was eager to jump on top of a man for release. Given that, you might imagine the power of this mushroom. Hansen did not dare open his mouth or eyes. He was afraid that if he started talking, or even opened his eyes to look, his mind would forfeit all control to the lust that was attempting to conquer his mind. Leave. Although I enjoy sleeping with women, I will only do it with the woman I love. I'm not entirely against consuming pills for added excitement. But shouldn't that be a woman's job? How can I eat them and suddenly be all lusty? Leave. Leave. Get out of here. Get out of here, young Manly. Hansen's heart was encouraging itself to not give in, despite the rebellion of his mind. But the woman continued to approach Hansen. Having seemed to discover that something was not quite right with Hansen's behavior, she walked in front of Hansen, trying to get a look at him. The woman was drawing extremely near, and Hansen could smell her. It was like his entire body was on fire and his nose was gushing like a fountain. Hansen was fighting the desire to open his eyes, and he bit down on his teeth and kept them shut. He bit on his own tongue until it bled, hoping the addition of pain might help him beat back the lust. Blood dripped from his lips. The woman furrowed her brow, believing something had gone wrong with Hansen's training. She suddenly thought that her uninvited entry was the catalyst for this apparent mishap of practice. The woman bent over and reached out her hand to feel for Hansen's pulse on his neck. She seemed eager to find out what had happened to Hansen. But when her delicate fingers touched Hansen's neck, the floodgates of his mind were lost. It felt as if the fingers were bringing a fire, and it made Hansen open his eyes. A beautiful woman stood before him, and her body was incredibly refined. Her height was almost the same as Hansen. She was wearing a tight white battlesuit. The curvatures of her thick, long legs, bubble butt, and big boobies were highlighted in the suit, perfectly sculptured, angled and curved to catch the attention of everyone and get their hearts racing. Her delicate face was as cold as it was elegant. It was the face of someone who was difficult to get close with. The woman was directly in front of Hansen, and her lips opened as if to say something. But at this time, Hansen couldn't hear a single thing. Although this woman did not look like young Manly, she was even more attractive, with a body and personality Hansen favored even more. Hansen lost all self-control. An aura of utter evil shone in Hansen's eyes. He reached out his hands and tried to grab the woman. The distance was great enough that she was able to take a graceful step back to avoid his lecherous hands. The woman's face did not change. She just looked at Hansen with the strangest of stares. But over the next second, her face warped. She could not believe Hansen was coming after her. The woman thought it would be impossible for him to do so, but he did. It wasn't long before her back was against a wall, and there was nowhere else for her to go. Hansen blocked her every exit, and it was impossible for her to run away now. The woman became incredibly angry in her shock. She reached her hand out to hit Hansen, but then quickly refrained. She knew she had disturbed his training and caused this predicament. Right now, his eyes were blood red, which more than suggested something was wrong. She pulled back her fists. As soon as she hesitated, Hansen grabbed onto the woman's battlesuit. Within moments, the battlesuit that had been designed to withstand bullets was ripped apart by Hansen's lust-fueled hands. Her succulent pair of big white breasts were now on full display in front of him. Hansen threw himself onto the woman and pushed her against the wall. One hand was clutched one of her giant boobs, which one hand could never hope to hold in its entirety, and his other hand reached down to squeeze her firm, bubbly butts. Hansen then brought down his lips to seal her own. The woman opened her eyes wide, and her body froze. Within just a few seconds, her curvy, voluptuous body had been grabbed and touched all over by Hansen. A second later, her eyes were filled with the chaos fire of hatred, and she looked at Hansen a murderous eye. It was as if her entire body had entered berserk mode. Her body seemed to emit a purple light, and she took on the shape of a fairy. A walloping knee drilled its way into Hansen's stomach, which sent the horny baboon flying across the room. Then the woman jumped up and struck Hansen with her battle axe-like legs while he was still airborne. Before he could even hit the ground, she kicked him sideways again. Tang, tang, tang. The beautiful legs had become frightening weapons that struck Hansen around 30 times. And for the entire time he was beaten up, right, left, and even down, Hansen did not touch the ground. Her exposed breasts jumped and jiggled with every kick. The woman knew that there was something wrong with Hansen, however, which helped to calm her down somewhat. So, she used her hands to try to conceal her wobbling, jelly breasts. The purple light that was being emitted from the woman's body started to fade. Although she was truly mad, she still managed to limit how much power she exerted on her horny aggressor. If she hadn't, with the power of someone who had unlocked her first game lock, one kick would have been enough to end Hansen. It was clear to her that something was wrong with Hansen. So, despite her rage, she managed to put a cap on the damage she dealt him, especially with the purple light, which she pushed into Hansen's body. This purple light would attempt to course its way through his body and clear his mind from any encroaching force. Although Hansen's body was suffering, he was able to feel a strange but gentle sensation flow throughout his insides. It seemed to help subdue and eliminate the effects of the red mushroom he had consumed. Clarity began returning to his mind, and when it had done so in a sufficient amount, he was able to close his eyes and focus on recasting Jade Sun Force. He then started to absorb the purple light and the red mushroom into his kidney. When these two distinct forces entered his kidneys, they made the organs glow in their two representative colors. His kidneys then started to glow like red, purple, and gold nuggets. This bounty of power was going all around his body. Hansen felt tremendous joy in his heart. Having both of these powers consume and reinvigorate him, he felt as if his Jade Sun Force was getting better and better. The process was quick and free from trouble, and it seemed that it would all be over soon. The woman summoned Beast's soul armor to cover her body and went to sit on a chair. She had a curious, complicated look on her face as she watched Hansen, in between her blushing. I should have killed you. The woman thought about the shameful scene and terrible groping she had been subjected to, and she looked at Hansen with disgust. Queen had been traveling through the ice field, and she had come to learn that Hansen was living in the area from Hyunfu Pinking. So she thought to give him a visit and ask him something. Queen did not want to disturb or affect anyone else, so she came here alone during the night. With her skills of espionage, she knew she would not be discovered on her way there. But this was the last thing she had expected to happen. When she thought about her body being felt all over by a man like Hansen, she wanted to slap him to death. But she was also conflicted with the knowledge that it was her disturbance that most likely prompted his out-of-character misdeeds. She didn't blame Hansen, but she again thought about how her body, which had never been touched by another man before, had been so vigorously fondled by someone in such a manner. She blushed deeply and gnawed at her teeth in uncertainty until she almost drew blood. But Queen had something else nibbling at the back of her mind. With her talons, she knew she should have fended Hansen off and kept him away. But when she moved and used Heavenly Go, Hansen was able to follow each step and block her way. She was the one who taught Hansen Heavenly Go, but her calculations of his progress with the skill were obviously incorrect and had led to this grievous mistake. Her mind and body were not prepared, which was why she had been pushed to the wall. Now that his kidney had absorbed the purple light, things seemed different. He believed that if he ate the red mushroom again, the horniness would not affect him. To test this out, all he would have to do was collect the final mushroom and eat it, then practice the Jade Sun Force one last time to finish its training. Hansen opened his eyes and saw Queen in front of him, staring at him coldly. The scene and all its wretched sexual tension came rushing back to him. Imagining his prior grab of her boobies, he couldn't help but stare at her chest. Excellent. They were excellent. Hansen had laid eyes on many beautiful girls in his time, but this was the only stunner that was as powerful as he was, and her pair of boobs were in no way inferior to those possessed by Hyunfu Pinking. Everything about her was perfect, pretty much. If you have a death wish, then by all means, continue to stare. Queen coldly looked at Hansen. Her face did not display emotion, but anger continued to boil in her heart. If Hansen's behavior had not been triggered by her intrusion, she would have slapped him to death by now. I am sorry, but this is my room. You are the one who came in uninvited. You cannot blame me. Hansen was coughing when he said this. He saw the woman continue to peer at him, and it looked as if she wanted to kill him. His heart was stricken with a chill, so he quickly shuffled along the proceedings and asked, "Who are you, anyway? And why have you come here?" Hansen had never seen Queen's face before, and the lusty thoughts from earlier had messed up his head. Queen told him. Hansen was flabbergasted. He said, "It's you. Why are you here?" A powerful character like her needed others on the same level to go on a hunt. There was only one possibility Hansen could think of. They were hunting a super creature. I wonder if they have killed a super creature before. Hansen was disturbed at this revelation, but he hadn't yet unlocked his gene lock. He simply wasn't qualified to join them. If he wanted to unlock his first gene lock, the quickest way to do so was through mastery of Jade Skin. But he was afraid of learning that skill to its full extent, due to his fear of becoming like the cruel people of the Zhu family. It was a difficult decision to mull over. I have been learning Dongshuan Sutra for so long. Perhaps Jade Skin has been purified. Let's give it a go. But before he continued learning Jade Skin, he returned to the snowy basin to collect the last red mushroom. He cut it into thin slices and used it to train Jade Sun Force. After he absorbed the energy of the red mushroom, his kidney shined and his power felt limitless. Hansen's heart felt strange, however. Although the Jade Sun Force he learnt was correct, it now seemed a touch different than before. There was a magical, purple light shining alongside it. That purple light must be the power Queen shoved into me. It must be the power she gained from unlocking her first gene lock, too. But how can I use that to my advantage? I am not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, since it seems to be trapped in my kidney now. Hansen was lost in thought. Whatever the case might be, there didn't seem to be any negative consequences to its presence. After consuming the rest of the mushroom, the Jade Sun Force was finally complete. Both of his kidneys now shone like stoves, providing endless power for Hansen 24/7. He was not sure if it was affected by the Jade Sun Force, but Hansen's heresy mantra had also completed its first stage long life. The troops of the various shelters were now mobile and nearing the royal shelter. Bravely, they moved to the outskirts of the shelter to clear out any creatures around it, in preparation for the big battle that was to come. Hansen's group was the most powerful, and they were the ones assigned to attack the main gate. Hansen was following Kai Ziyuan's plan to a T without making a single change. As a result, Kai Ziyuan was feeling rather cocky. He believed that Hansen trusted him entirely, and that he had wrapped Hansen around his little finger. If that wasn't the case, why else would he be doing exactly what he was told? Kai Ziyuan almost felt bad for being so manipulative. Just wait until I get the royal shelter. If he listens to what I tell him, then I won't treat him too poorly. This was a thought propagated by Kai Ziyuan's heart, but it wasn't soon before his mind questioned such judgment. This sort of man is not suitable for important responsibilities. If the person in charge cannot be cruel and unforgiving, then it is only a matter of time before others try to take advantage and attempt to trample on me. Far away, on the slopes of a snowy mountain, a fit woman watched the battle unfold. She talked to herself, saying, I should be able to see what his power is from here. Although this was a siege, only a few people from the goddess shelter fought alongside Hansen. Those backing him up were not very strong, and most of them were commanded by Kai Ziyuan and positioned elsewhere. But this time, Kai Ziyuan did not see the silver-haired spirit. This made him feel strange. Kai Ziyuan did not know that the silver-haired spirit would not leave the spirit hall, and he was afraid Hansen might run ahead and try to steal the spirit stone. But Hansen did not care all that much. He wore blood-scale armor and held his two favorite swords in his hands. With Young Manly and his other fighters, he led their offense against the main gate. Kai Ziyuan had given Hansen this position, where the creatures were the strongest, with only a few people from the goddess shelter backing him up. He had hoped the monsters would eliminate them, but instead of slowly battling their way forward, Hansen and his people instead decided to rush ahead madly. Kai Ziyuan shook his head at the sight, and the conflicted voices inside him argued once more. That person is brave, I'll give him that. But he's just as stupid. It's hard to do business with such a person. But then again, someone as brave as that may come in handy sometime in the future. Young Manly, Juting, Uncle King, and the rest of his people now followed Hansen as he entered the royal shelter. But when they entered there, they were shocked to see a far greater number of creatures on the inside than the outside. And what was more, there were many sacred blood variants mixed in. It seemed as if the spirit would not have to come out and join the fight. There are far too many creatures here. Should we wait until the other groups show up? Juting looked around nervously. They were the only ones who had rushed in, and the others were quite far behind. There is no need to wait, Hansen said, and as he did, a silver fox leapt onto his shoulder. As Hansen ran towards the monsters, they parted like an ocean, as if they were afraid of him. They seemed frightened, and they each scrambled out of the way. Whenever Hansen took a step forward, another creature took a step back. Even a titan snake that was 100 feet long fell back and dared not hit him. Seeing Hansen march in like a god was a strange thing to watch. Young Manly and the rest had their jaws on the floor, and they almost couldn't believe what they were seeing. How can he do that? Young Manly had a puzzled expression when she looked at Hansen, and she couldn't imagine what sort of powers he was employing. Uncle King looked faithful, and maybe a little bit fanatical when he looked at Hansen. He really is the heir of Master Han, isn't he? He does possess magical powers, he does. For the others, they either thought they were witnessing was an absolute miracle or they were dreaming. Hansen brought Young Manly and the rest to the spirit hall. He was familiar with this place and did not want to waste any more time, so he rushed in as soon as he arrived. At this time, Hansen and his people were right outside the spirit hall, and they had gotten there with no trouble. Young Manly wanted to shake herself, as if trying to wake up from some weird dream. After she saw the gold and silver lady spirits, she couldn't help but say, the twin spirits resides in this shelter. You guys take a break, sit and watch. I'll take care of this. Hansen had trained his dual skill for the longest time with the aim of taking down the twin spirits. He didn't want anyone else to join in, for he wanted to beat it by himself. Besides, the people from the other shelters had yet to arrive. If they beat the twin spirits too soon, many creatures would run off as well. The twin spirits hated Hansen. Tightly clutching their gold and silver swords, they went to fight against their pestering nemesis once more. Each strike was brought down like gold and silver lightning. These are some really good skills. It is no wonder why they are royal spirits. Is the boss going to be okay battling them both? As Yu Ting finished his words, he saw Hansen use his two swords to batter the twin spirits with such force, it sent them rocketing through the air. Invincible. Everyone had this word on their mind. Hansen's powerful sword and skills had resulted in the twin spirits being stripped of its ability to fight back. No matter how quickly or powerfully the twin spirits attacked, Hansen was always one step ahead. Both of Hansen's hands held a sword, and each one was performing a different sword skill to do battle with the twin spirits. And as he fought and fought, the twin spirits were being beaten back further and further. The boss is too cool. The boss is the man. One man taking on two girls. Damn, he is the best. The young men in the back were waving their flags in support. It was surreal. This was supposed to be a battleground of bloody war, but it was more like they were sitting back to watch a show in an arena. The faces of the twin spirits looked terrible. Before, they could go against Hansen without any trouble. But now, they could not keep up with him and were repeatedly being knocked backwards. They did not have the power to fight back. Then Hansen ran into the center of the spirit hall. On the other side of the royal shelter, this group of people marched forward, uninhibited by the creatures that attempted to stop them. This was Thunder Devil and his men. But no matter how fast they cleaved away forward, they were not as fast as Hansen, who did not even have to fight any creatures. Besides, Thunder Devil and his people did not know where the spirit hall was. They spent a long while looking for it, but they were still unable to find it. Then, he bumped into Kai Ziyuan. What are you guys still doing here? Kai Ziyuan saw Thunder Devil and his people with much surprise. This royal shelter is way too big. It's easy to get lost. We are unable to find where the spirit hall is. We have already scoured the other end of the shelter, so it has to be this way. Thunder Devil pointed in the direction he was going. Let's get going then. The people from the other two shelters are on their way, too. We can't let them get there first, Kai Ziyuan said. Then, merging with the forces of Thunder Devil, they marched towards the spirit shelter. Yang Manli and her people followed Hansen to the spirit hall, where Hansen used his swords to utterly suppress the twin spirits. Through this ceaseless barrage of sword strikes, the twin spirits could not gain ground and push back, and it fell back further and further. There is something sinister and malevolent about this Hansen. He has been in the second god's sanctuary for less than a year, so how can he be so powerful? He is somehow managing to suppress two royal spirits simultaneously. And as for what happened earlier, Ju Ting bore a strange look, and he seemed to be disturbed by his thoughts. The twin spirits had been pushed back as far as possible, and now had its back to a statue. The pretty faces of the royal spirits looked pale and hopeless. The silver snake sword and ancient mascot sword were each pressed against the spirit's neck. Seeing both of the spirits down on their knees, with pitiable and saddened looks on their faces, Hansen felt remarkably happy. Once, these had almost cost him his life by severely injuring him. Today, he was finally able to turn the tides and win back some of the pride he had lost that time. Quickly, kill them and grab the spirit stone, someone shouted from behind. There is no rush, I will wait a little longer. Hansen did not finish off the spirits yet. He just continued to rest the swords against their necks. He wanted to provide more time for Kai Ziyuan and the rest to slay more creatures for a greater bounty when the day was over. Finally, Kai Ziyuan found the spirit hall. As he approached its entrance, however, he was almost disturbed to notice the complete absence of creatures. Even more unnerving were the half-jovial sounds of human talk resonating from inside. Hansen already stood next to a statue, reaching out his hand to grab the spirit stone that was embedded within. It is the twin spirits. Kai Ziyuan saw Hansen holding a gold sword and a silver sword, with the twin spirits standing in concession beneath the blades. He couldn't have been more surprised. Seeing Hansen take the two spirit stones, the silver-haired lady and golden-haired lady then ceremoniously knelt before Hansen. They lowered both of their proud heads and spoke in tandem. Yin Princess and Young Princess are willing to submit and offer absolute loyalty to a new master. We can become the most faithful of servants. Everyone else was now on their feet, staring at the princesses who were kneeling and swearing fealty to Hansen. This was a pair of princess spirits. It was rare enough to see a royal-class spirit make such a vow, but to have two of them do it at the same time was almost unbelievable. In each of Hansen's hands rested a spirit stone, one silver and one gold. He placed the stones on the Yin Princess and Yang Princess's foreheads. They then became one with their stones, disappearing into them in a blinding light. Everyone continued to stand there, just watching. The taking of a royal spirit was something few people would ever see. And for it to be the twin spirits, above all, was something might happen once every 100 years at best. Kai Ziyuan sighed and said, Brother Han, you are so blessed. You must be really lucky to have been able to tame the twin spirits. All of a sudden, Kai Ziyuan's tone of voice changed. But you cannot live off the merit of luck your entire life. Brother Han, I will be taking this shelter, okay. Kai Ziyuan, do you not remember the promise made between Tang's family and Donglin? Hansen kept his stare on Kai Ziyuan as he spoke. The promise between Donglin and Tang's family only applied to the Black God shelter. This isn't the Black God shelter, now is it? Kai Ziyuan smiled. Wei Xinglun and Philip looked at each other, as if to confirm they were about to do something in tandem. But all of a sudden, Kai Ziyuan made a gesture with his hand. In seconds, countless soldiers from the Black God shelter swarmed every corner of the hall. This is between me and Brother Han, so please don't interrupt us. Thanks, I appreciate that, Kai Ziyuan told Wei Xinglun and Philip. Kai, you promised that the three of us would be in charge once we took the shelter. You are going to take it all for yourself, Philip said coldly. This world is reserved for the strong. Even if I did give it to you, could you honestly hold on to this shelter? Kai Ziyuan then gave a signal which made the evolvers around him assume battle stances. There were more than 40 evolvers with a fitness level of over 100. The faces of Wei Xinglun and Philip changed. Both of their shelters only had 10 evolvers with a fitness level of over 100. Black God shelter, however, was only supposed to contain 20. How could there now be so many? Against so many evolvers with such a level, it would have been impossible for them to fight back. And so they reverted to silence. Young Manly scowled, as did the rest of her compatriots. A battalion such as that would be enough to sweep clean the entirety of the ice field. Brother Han, you and I were friends. It is a shame we do not see eye to eye on this, but if you pledge fealty to me and swear obedience, I will keep you by my side. Our relationship can remain the way it was, except our roles will be reversed. Kai Ziyuan, empowered with a feeling of dominance, spoke to Hansen in a tone marinated with the bitter sauce of bluster. Kai Ziyuan, you honestly think these people can stop me? Hansen stroked the silver fox in his arms and asked his question calmly. Kai Ziyuan smiled and responded, Brother Han is very powerful. This is something I acknowledge and I would not dare look down on you if this is what you fear. After that, Kai Ziyuan pointed to the man at his side, Thunderdevil. He then said, I can only assume you do not know who this person is, so allow me to introduce you. This is the most talented evolver in Donglin. This is Thunderdevil. Few people could ever hope to be as talented as him. He is a successful learner of the skill Thunder Core. He also unlocked his first gene lock in the second God's Sanctuary. He is quite the rarity in the Alliance. Everyone's faces changed as they looked at Thunderdevil in fright. If he had been able to unlock his first gene lock in the second God's Sanctuary, the man by Kai Ziyuan's side was undoubtedly a genius. Silence deafened the ears of all in the hall. Kai Ziyuan and with him an elite who had already unlocked his first gene lock. This sort of power would not simply mop up its adversaries, but crush them into dust. The hall had never been so quiet, and a sad realization dawned in the hearts of all who were there. Their hope had been depleted, and with this man and his crushing power present, the fear of losing everything in the ice field to Kai Ziyuan was all too real. Brother Han, you have treated me like a little brother. If you are willing to help me, I will treat you with the reverence of a real brother. Kai Ziyuan looked at Hansen when he spoke. I do have medicine with me. It is my hope that you will take it. Kai Ziyuan had no fear of anything. He pulled out a platinum bottle from his inner chest pocket and threw it towards Hansen. Hansen caught the bottle and opened it. It contained numerous fire crystal-looking pills that were about the same size as a pigeon's eye. What are these pills? Hansen held one of the pills in his hand and looked at it in the light. It's a geno-creation pill. Our Donglin contains fantastic biological gene technology. This is just one of our products. Once you eat it, it can trigger geno-mutations. There's every chance it could make you stronger, but there is also the chance your genes suffer a snafu of sorts. But don't you worry. If you inject yourself with a geno-stabilizer, you can stabilize the mutant genes. It won't harm your body. This isn't some fresh product that has just come out the oven. It's mature and has been extensively developed. Nothing will go wrong. If I take this, then that would mean I would have to listen to you for the rest of my life. Hansen spoke with a frosty tone as he looked at the geno-creation pill. I must confess, I wouldn't let a character such as yourself out of my sight for very long. If I let you leave, my thoughts and dreams would be disturbed. That is why I must put you on a leash as soon as I am able, Kai Ziyuan said. You really think that special little elite in your midst is invincible? Hansen went back to stroking his silver fox. He then raised his lips in a disdainful smile. Did you just say special little elite? You better watch your tone, boy. Thunderdevil's face now changed as he glared fiercely at Hansen. green electricity crackling all around his body. When everyone saw the electricity that swirled, snapped, and crackled around Thunderdevil, their hope for a happy ending vanished. This really was an elite who had unlocked their first gene lock, and he was no foe to be trifled with. Thunderdevil had already come to dislike Hansen. He was not accustomed to being looked down upon by someone who had not yet unlocked their own first gene lock. He thought Hansen didn't know his place. The moment Kaizuyuan nodded, fierce shieldings of electricity surrounded Thunderdevil. His hands clutched a long physical bolt of lightning and threw it like a javelin towards Hansen. With the terrifying scene that was now unfolding, everyone took a step back to avoid being struck by Thunderdevil's thunder and lightning. He was so bright, they could not even see Thunderdevil's body. All that could be heard was the swirling pressure of crackling static and electricity. Hansen then saw the incoming spear of lightning. This scary power made everyone's hearts pound in fear, but it also gave them each a modicum of jealousy, wishing they could one day attain such talent. All of them desired to one day unlock their first gene lock. But realistically, only 1 in a million was likely to achieve such a status. But between their jealousy and frightened emotional state, they thought they were going to have to watch Hansen be slain by the Thunderdevil. However, it was at that moment that the silver fox Hansen had been holding leapt into action. A silver cloud of lightning appeared and annihilated the incoming spear of green electricity. Then, more thunder snapped the skies apart. Before it could finish, it was joined by a chorus of screams. The Thunderdevil, who once struck fear into the hearts of everyone present, was now blackened and charred. Then he fell to the floor. There were 3 gouge marks in his body, wounds that were deep enough to reveal his bones. How can an elite who has unlocked their first gene lock be beaten by a little pet fox? Everyone was speechless, and their minds were now plagued with 1,000 different questions over what they had just witnessed. All they could do was look at Thunderdevil, who was rolling around on the floor. Hansen picked up the silver fox and stroked him in his arms once more. Then he walked up to the ground-bound Thunderdevil and kicked him in front of Kaizuyuan. Did I say clown? I'm sorry, this guy is an insult to clowns. Is this who you are relying on? Hansen looked at Kaizuyuan, who now bore a pale face. Thunderdevil, who was near Kaizuyuan's feet, was spilling blood from his mouth. It looked as if he was on death's door. Kaizuyuan and his 40 other elites looked absolutely petrified. They did not dare to move. The teeth of the audience were chattering, and their bodies were shivering in fear and uncertainty. Kaizuyuan must have thought he was suffering an unrelenting nightmare. He had more than 40 elites, one of which had unlocked his first gene lock. This powerful lineup, that had seemed to dwarf the rest in the hall, now seemed like a pitiful joke. It was in this moment that Kaizuyuan realized Hansen never once took him seriously, and that the entire time he had been with him, he must have been merely enjoying the comedy. It was as if he had been watching an ant, being arrogant and trying to bully others. His behavior had been ridiculous and all his plans were childish. All of a sudden, Kaizuyuan's confidence collapsed, and with it, he fell to the ground. After the fighting that took place in the royal shelter, the ice field changed. The 3 factions that governed the ice field were broken. Hansen took the royal shelter and formed an alliance with Lai Zinglan and Philip, which led to the formation of a new goddess shelter. The 3 armies were then split into 4. Young Manly was made leader of the goddess army. Lai Zinglan was put in charge of the Starwheel army. Philip became the leader of the Philip army. And lastly, Kaizuyuan was made leader of the Black God army. Hansen remained leader of the goddess shelter, but was unsatisfied with the title. He thought leader lacked a certain flair. Hansen did not kill Kaizuyuan, though, because that would only cause more problems in the future. He also needed the strength of Kaizuyuan's men to keep the new royal shelter in fine operation. Hansen did not fear the possibility of being betrayed again, either. The 3 factions worked together to bring down the royal shelter, with the Black God shelter receiving the most benefits. But because of the treachery enacted by Kaizuyuan and his men, all their potential rewards were forfeited and given to Hansen exclusively. Kaizuyuan did not receive a penny or a scrap of meat, despite all of his rewards being taken by Hansen. However, he did not complain once. He was merely happy enough to be walking away with his head still attached to his shoulders. Hansen was no longer a man he would be keen to trifle with. Hansen also gave the goddess army the greatest boons. If they required it, they could buy creature meat at very low prices. This meant the power of the troops in his army could increase at a much faster rate. Boss, I have formulated the account. Young Manly had prepared a ledger for Hansen, but when she came near to deliver it, her eyes could not look away from the silver fox. The silver fox had earned quite the name for itself across the ice field. It was the pet that had killed an elite who had unlocked his gene lock in a single hit, after all. It was difficult to imagine something so small dealing such vast amounts of damage. Young Manley had seen the silver fox before, but she believed it to be an ordinary pet. It only seemed natural, as Hansen played with it frequently. She never imagined it had such terrifying powers. It was a frightening little thing. Hansen took a look at the ledger and was startled to learn that the sum of money they had received from selling the excess meat in the past few days was in the billions. If they started running the royal shelter, the income they would receive would be unimaginable. They'd end up rivaling the income generated from mega corporations that ran entire planets. Of course, it couldn't possibly rival a galactic mega corporation. But Hansen was happy to settle for his current projections. With this royal shelter, even if Hansen didn't lift a finger from this point on, he would be able to live a life of absolute luxury. But this was meaningless to Hansen, because wealth was not his purpose. Money was useless to him if he couldn't achieve the power he was striving for. After young Manley left, Hansen lifted the bottle of Geno creation pills he had held on to. The last time he brought it out, the silver fox had shown great interest in eating them. But Hansen didn't let him, as he worried various problems might arise. He wasn't sure if mutating genes was a bad thing or not, and it was different than the consumption of mutant flesh. The silver fox reached out its paws and tried to grab a hold of the bottle. It seemed as if it greatly desired to eat them. Hansen hesitated for a good while, but in the end, he opened the lid and pulled one out. "Are you sure you won't have any problems eating this?" Hansen wasn't sure if the silver fox could understand him, but he still asked. The silver fox quickly nodded, as if it was a genuine response to the question. Hansen paused to think for some time, but then opened his hand. Quickly, the silver fox gobbled up the pill. Hansen observed the silver fox intently, anxiously waiting to see if there were any changes. He had obtained a fair amount of Geno stabilizers from Kai Ziyuan, so if a problem arose, he was confident in his ability to fix it. After a while, the only change he noticed was the silver fox's hair. Somehow, it looked a little brighter. But aside from that, nothing. The silver fox tried to claw at the empty bottle, as if he was still hungry for them. "It looks like the Geno creation pills are not strong enough to mutate a super creature," Hansen thought to himself. "Hansen, you rock. How did you do that?" You dealt Donglin a significant blow. In the communicator, Tang Zhenliu was staring at Hansen in awe. That person in Donglin looked for Tang's family, desiring reconciliation with Hansen. Hansen told Tang Zhenliu the tale of what had occurred in the royal shelter. "You're telling me you killed an evolver who had unlocked their first gene lock. You have opened a gene lock too, then, I presume?" Tang Zhenliu's eyes were wide, looking at his correspondent's face with much admiration. "And not that fast, it was just luck. I have a kick-ass pet, and it was my pet that killed Thunder Devil," Hansen told him, smiling. "What sort of pet can be that powerful? If you've got any more for sale, I'll take 10. Tang Zhenliu jested with a hearty laugh. "I only have one. I can only surmise that Lady Luck is fond of me when bestowing the fortune to receive such pet. You can't envy me." Hansen laughed. "It is no wonder why he was willing to pay you that much. An evolver with an unlocked gene lock was killed by you. Nothing could stand in your way of killing Kai Ziyuan. If that is what you chose to do," Tang Zhenliu said. "Of course, but I'm not that stupid. I'm not willing to kill people of small concern. Like him. There'd be no benefit, and if anything, it'd just be a hassle. Retaliation from Donglin would likely occur as well. I suppose I agree with the compensation they are offering. But I don't want these random items or their money. Help me talk to the people in Donglin and have it all swapped for Geno creation pills. If those things don't work correctly, they can kill someone." "What do you need that many for?" Tang Zhenliu inquired, frowning. Hansen knew what Tang Zhenliu was thinking, so he smiled. He said, "Don't worry, I'm not using this stuff to harm anyone. I know how to use them. But anyway, help me talk to them to get this exchange in motion." "Okay, I'll get in touch with them. I'll let you know in a few days, most likely." The Geno creation pills from Donglin were not the type of goods that could be purchased in the markets. This was because the Alliance forbid them to be sold. If Hansen wanted to buy some, there was nowhere he could go to do so. Even if he could obtain them through the more illicit routes of trade, they'd cost an arm and a leg. So, getting them directly from the Kai family was undoubtedly the best way to go about their retrieval right now. If the silver fox wanted to eat them so much, perhaps they could provide some major benefits. There would be no harm in having a few more at his disposal anyway. If they turned out to provide the boon he was hoping for, Hansen thought Kai Ziyuan could stay wrapped around his finger for a while longer. If he ever wanted more, he could go through Kai Ziyuan for them at the family discount. "Boss, the silver beetles outside the gate remain. They are not pulling away. We tried killing a few, and we were successful. But it's as if they can respawn in an instant." How should we deal with them? Philip saw Hansen pass by and made sure to voice his concern over their unwelcome squatters. This Philip was quite something. The reason he was called Philip was because of his gluttonous appetite for fillet steaks. Wise England once said that Philip's family was rather extensive, and he himself was quite talented. If he wasn't, he couldn't be a faction leader in the fragmented ice fields, after all. I will handle this. You guys don't need to do anything. Hansen was holding the silver fox when he passed through the gate. But when he approached the ladybugs, they did not disappear underground. There was a dizzying amount of them, squirming and shimmering like a lake of molten silver. But as Hansen drew nearer, the presence of the silver fox eventually came to their attention. When it did, some ran away, whereas others burrowed underground as quickly as they could. These silver beetles were very strange. You wouldn't receive an announcement when you killed one. There was no way to obtain a beast's soul from them, and their carcasses simply decomposed without providing any meat for consumption. It was the vast number of them that was most curious, though. It would seem no matter how many you killed, they'd always come back. Hansen held the silver fox and ran around the area in a loop. Wherever he went, the silver beetles would disappear, but whenever he left and later returned, they'd be back. Hansen summoned Princess Yin's spirit, bringing her pretty shadow to life in front of him. He pointed towards the silver beetles and asked, "What's the deal with these silver beetles?" Princess Yin moved her pretty eyes and said, "They are not exactly creatures." "Well, if they are not creatures, what are they?" Hansen frowned as he inquired. After all, how could the creatures inside the shelters not be creatures? They would best be described as weapons, Princess Yin said. "Give me the details." Hansen was quite curious about this revelation, so he pressed further. Princess Yin then explained, "There is a silver beetle mother somewhere underground, and she can constantly reproduce the smaller bugs that you see here. But they're not offspring or babies in the traditional sense, they're more like weapons." Hansen now understood why killing them was so useless. The actual creature they sought resided underground. "Is the silver beetle mother a sacred blood creature?" Hansen asked. "Yes," Princess Yin confirmed. Hansen looked around and said while furrowing his brow, "Where can she be found? I am unable to control it, as I once could. Therefore, I do not know." As a rough approximation of their burrowed depths, they usually lie around 500 meters underground. 500 meters. Hansen's eyebrows went even tighter. There was no way he would be able to drill 500 meters underground to fight a sacred blood silver beetle mother. But if he did not kill it, it would cost a lot of resources to have people remove their presence, day in, day out, and Hansen would be the one paying the most. Therefore, he did not want that. It is not difficult to kill the silver beetle mother. In fact, if I had my sister, we could do it together ourselves. Yin fluttered her beautiful eyes. "This is awesome." Hansen did not think twice and immediately summoned Princess Yang. The beautiful twins, one with silver hair and the other with gold hair, appeared in front of him. Hansen could not help but gulp as he witnessed their presence before him, side by side. It was a gorgeous sight to behold. Hansen couldn't take his eyes off Princess Yin and Princess Yang. The mermaid princess had the ability to control the crystal palace, so he wondered if either of these princesses possessed any special abilities he could employ. As well, Princess Yin and Princess Yang looked at each other. They raised up their swords together, producing two lights, one silver and one gold. Then, in a flash, they both fused together to become a whole new woman clad in gold and silver armor. One iris was gold, the other silver. One hand clutched a silver sword, whereas the other held a golden sword. They have formed to become one person. Hansen looked at this new spirit lady they had transformed into. He was puzzled, unable to understand why they did not do this before, when he fought them in the spirit hall. He then watched the lady spirit move towards the cracks in the ground that the silver beetles crawled out of. Extending her silver sword outwards, she drove it down into the crevice. Then, with her remaining gold sword, she swirled and twirled it around in the air. After a while of doing this, Hansen suddenly felt the ground begin to rumble like an earthquake. Then a squealing noise sounded from below the earth as plumes of dust shot out of the crevice like a dirty exhaust. "Master, the silver beetle's mother has been killed," the spirit lady reported to Hansen. Hansen didn't need the report, however, for he already knew the result through the notification he had received. Princess Yin and Princess Yang slew the silver beetle mother. The beast's soul was not acquired. Consume its flesh to obtain a random numeric amount of sacred genopoints, ranging from 0 to 10. "When we used to fight, why did you not use this skill?" Hansen curiously inquired. "Combining yin and yang together does not increase our power. It only enables me to use this particular sword skill," the yin-yang princess explained. "Ah, that's why. If that's the case, then you two should split up." Hansen believed having two women was better than one, so he recommended they remain as Princess Yin and Princess Yang. Hansen then prepared to return to the shelter, but that was when he faintly saw a shadow appear from behind a glacier. When he took a closer look, he noticed that it was Queen. Queen stared at the silver fox in Hansen's arms and did not even look at him. "Why are you here?" Hansen frowned, looking at Queen with alarm. If Queen was going to come after the silver fox, he wasn't sure if it could be her. Although the silver fox was powerful, it was still just a pup. The power was nowhere near what it could one day become. Facing an ordinary evolver who had unlocked the first gene lock seemed to be okay, but the thought of it facing Queen made Hansen uncertain. The silver fox returned Queen's gaze, just as it did when it first saw Zuyaquang. Queen then turned to look at Hansen and said, "Your pet seems to be quite special. What class is it?" "Sacred blood class," Hansen answered Queen immediately, with no hesitation in his lie. Although he knew Queen wanted to hunt super creatures, he did not know if she actually had yet. Because of this, Hansen did not wish to say anything more. Queen continued to peer at Hansen but did not say anything. She then returned her watch to the silver fox and said, "You know, there is still one more class above sacred blood creatures. I formed a team composed of people who have each unlocked their first gene lock. Our purpose is to hunt those monsters. Are you interested?" "I still haven't unlocked my first gene lock. I thought I wouldn't be qualified to join you," Hansen said. "With that pet at your side, I would say you are qualified." Queen pointed to the silver fox. "Never mind, then. I don't think I have the abilities to go with you. I can't rely on a pet to keep me alive. Besides, the existence of those creatures is little more than a myth. Have you killed any to confirm?" Hansen asked. Queen did not answer. All she said was, "Well, the invitation is always open. If you change your mind, seek me out through pinking." And then she left as quickly as she appeared. Queen secretly thought that the creature Hansen possessed was a super creature, but she had never killed one before. Therefore, she could not be certain and all she could do was guess. After 100 years of development, humans were getting more and more powerful in the Second God's Sanctuary. Still, humans that could unlock their gene lock in the Second God's Sanctuary were very rare. Queen spent a lot of time trying to gather such individuals, and despite trying her best, she had only been able to invite 7. Most of them had their own territory, so finding 7 people on her own was quite impressive. But even with a team of such considerable power, they still could not kill creatures that were above the sacred blood class. Queen considered that Hansen's pet may have been a berserk sacred blood beast soul. Although the chances were slim, that could be what had given it special abilities. But the silver fox was not a beast soul. That meant it had to be a super creature. How could anyone judge her skepticism? After all, no one had been known to tame a creature before, only those spoken about in legends. The reason why Queen invited Hansen was because she had witnessed the power of the silver fox and Hansen together. She used to teach Hansen, so she could more accurately gauge how he had grown and where he would continue to go. His potential and the likely course of his future was frighteningly impressive. If he unlocked the first gene lock, he'd be a scary master to have and a terrifying foe to face. To be close with a character such as that, Queen was keen to have him in her party as soon as possible. Hansen had benefited greatly from his assault on the royal shelter, and now his mutant geno amount had maxed out. His sacred geno points had also been given a boost, too. His sacred geno count had reached 39. Right now, if he had to gauge his fitness level based on the genos he possessed, he put it at 150. But that was not because of his training. This number was equal to top-level evolvers. If Hansen reached surpasser state, he could ascend to become a celestial being with a fitness level of 300. But Jai Yanran told him that before he became a surpasser, the higher fitness level he had, the better. There was no need to rush the process. For now, Hansen's primary goal was to unlock his gene lock. If he didn't, it would not matter if his fitness was higher than evolvers who had already unlocked theirs. He would still be handicapped and his ability to perform skills would be significantly lessened. Hansen, with a renewed resolve, decided to try out Jadeskin once more. When he unlocked the first tier of Jadeskin, he should have unlocked his gene lock as well. Human emotions were dictated by greed, jealousy, lust, and desire. Under the effects of Jadeskin, things were different. Hansen's association with these cornerstones of human emotion seemed to be dying somewhat. His emotions were getting colder. It made Hansen feel keen, unusually keen. His vision, smell, taste, touch, and hearing were increased as well, but it was the substantial amplification of his sixth sense that surprised him. Hansen could now hear voices coming from another training room, which was something he had been unable to do before. Although he wasn't cold, Hansen's body felt somehow chill. His mind was at greater ease. His emotions seemed to be fading away. and he almost didn't feel human. The cells in his body were struggling, almost moaning. It was as if they were now in shackles. Hansen never felt so restrained before, and as these feelings started to increase, his body started to panic, and he wanted to shatter the chains that bound him. Hansen felt himself touch the first gene lock, and he acknowledged that the jade skin was different than before. No matter how hard he had trained it in the past, it had never come close to making him feel as he did now. Hansen believed that if he continued, he would unlock the first gene lock. But the further he went, the more his emotions were stripped away from him. The last time I tried training Jadeskin, the Dongshuan Sutra is what woke me up. But right now, it isn't doing anything. Maybe it's because this time there is no danger. Just by hearing the sounds, his mind's eye could construct an image depicting exactly what was going on in the next chamber. That was the nature of the seventh sense. It was a person's ability to analyze time and space in their past, present, and future forms. Hansen's seventh sense was stronger than most people's, and right now it had been amplified by an order of magnitude. It was sharper than the sharpest blade. Suddenly, the sound of broken ground sent a shockwave through Hansen's body. He felt something within him break, and now he was overwhelmed with a feeling of release. It was as if he had been incarcerated for 1,000 years, and now he was free. He was feeling incandescent, as if he could command the skies, as if he could fly, as if he had been reborn as an angel. Hansen didn't receive any new icy powers after unlocking his first gene lock, but the strength of his body was dramatically increased. That wasn't the most important boon he had received, however. Most importantly, Hansen's seventh sense had received massive amplifications. It had reached the max proficiency a human could achieve, which gave Hansen a curious feeling. He couldn't quite explain it, but it made Hansen view the world in a different way. He could see things as he had never seen them before. Hansen went to a testing lobby. He wanted to see what sort of power he had reached, having now unlocked his gene lock. To do a complete test, Hansen went to an exclusive testing lobby at the army base, not the ordinary, virtual community one. After he selected his desired strength for the test, he entered the testing room. Inside, a half-human cyborg appeared in front of him. This droid, designed exclusively for combat testing, was built to resemble a human. It was actually composed of many other smaller robots. After a certain amount of damage had been dealt to the droid, it would shatter. But then, it could quickly rebuild itself. After seeing Hansen enter a testing lobby, Annie was again watching his every move. Quickly, she went to the observation room so she could see how he was performing. The test Hansen was undertaking had been designed to accurately measure the dexterity of his abilities. He had never taken this test before, so Annie did not actually know what his proper level was. With Hansen now taking this test, Annie wasn't going to let this opportunity for observation pass her by. But due to the difficulty Hansen had selected, Annie couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He had chosen a difficulty level of 100, which meant Hansen would only need a level of 100 to beat it. Annie already knew that his power was well above 100. Since she was here anyway, she stayed to watch how he operated. Hansen hadn't chosen a stronger difficulty because he knew about the prying eyes, and he knew anyone could be watching from the observation room. He did not yet wish to reveal his true strength. Hansen's primary goal in the testing lobby was to flex and push the boundaries of the new special senses he had received by unlocking his gene lock. Therefore, he did not need to select a harder difficulty anyway. Hansen crushed the testing droid swiftly, and it quickly rebuilt itself as two. After Hansen destroyed both robots again, they too duplicated. When the four appeared before him, Hansen quickly cut them down. Then again when 8 appeared, and in this way, he kept going. Hansen rapidly tore through the robots with ease. After watching for a while longer, Annie's face started to turn heavy. The difficulty Hansen had selected may not have been high, but the way he was slicing through the droids was special. She did not notice it at first, but after watching for a while, her face twisted. These droids had the established behavior for duplicating on defeat. This meant the more Hansen killed, the more there would be. And the more droids there were, the more attacks would come Hansen's way. Unlike humans, they were systematic and did not have to think. This also meant there was less room for error. Such robots didn't make mistakes, and their precision greatly exceeded the capability and reliability of humans. Although these attacks could not threaten Hansen's life, the way he cut down the droids surprised Annie. Hansen, despite dodging and avoiding every single attack, did not even turn around to look at the swings and slashes that were coming his way. He could accurately destroy each droid from behind. Even when many droids attempted to strike him at the same time, he did not have to turn around to dodge and strike back. Annie almost couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was as if Hansen had grown eyes on the back of his head. Strength and speed were things that could be vigorously trained and improved upon. But this was something new to Annie, and she wasn't quite sure how he could have developed this power. From what she was witnessing, she did not believe such precision could come from a quick and accurate analysis of noise in the room, either. Returning to the shelter again, he found that Zhu Ting had been looking for him. Boss, I have found a sacred blood creature. Come and help me slay it. Sure, Hansen agreed, partially due to the fact he still felt guilty for what he had put Zhu Ting through with the red mushrooms. He also agreed to go without the promise of a return. Even though hunting sacred blood creatures wasn't a focus for him right now, having unlocked his first gene lock, it would prove to be far easier for him. Hansen ascended the cliff wall a dozen meters or so, and in a few more steps, he would reach the lizard creature. Hansen had secretly activated his gene lock, and with it, he could sense the creature's desire to turn around. When it did, he also had the foresight to know the creature would extend its tongue. In the next second, the lizard shot out its long, red, spiky tongue towards him. Being able to tell what was coming felt amazing. Hansen felt as if he could predict everything. Hansen leapt away from the cliffside. Borrowing strength from the air, he dodged the giant, toxic-looking tongue and returned to the cliffside near the creature. Unsheathing his silver sword, he quickly chopped its head off. This result even surpassed his own expectation, as the head quickly dislodged from the creature and fell to the ground. His sword went through it like a hot knife through butter, and it was enough to make Hansen question whether or not it was actually a sacred blood creature. Sacred blood creature hunted, mountain lizard. The beast's soul was not acquired. Consume its flesh to obtain a random numeric amount of sacred geno points, ranging from 0 to 10. But the voice confirmed what Zhu Ting had told him, that it was indeed a sacred blood creature. Hansen was chuffed. He now knew for sure that having unlocked his gene lock, his base power had increased by a dizzying amount. You asshole. I asked you to help me out and weaken the fiend. I didn't ask you to kill it. Did you get the beast's soul? I was careless. Sometimes I don't know my own strength. I'm sorry. Hansen gave a wry smile while he apologized, and then he continued. But I didn't get the beast's soul, really. How about I make it up to you by finding another sacred blood beast soul? Hey, I'll weaken it and let you get in the final hit. Does that sound okay? Zhu Ting calmed down after hearing that, but he still had to double check. So he asked, but you really didn't get the beast's soul? I, Hansen, in the name of the deities that command our existence, swear a proclamation that I did not receive a beast's soul. If I did, smite me, O heavenly beings, Hansen jovially said aloud. What kind of oath is that? Do you think I'll believe that? Few people actually die from swearing such a thing. Swear again, and this time, say that you will never ever have a wife, Zhu Ting said. Hansen did as he requested and said it, which comforted him fully. They then hauled the mountain lizard's body onto a summon mount and decided to return to the shelter. Honestly, though, how have you achieved what you have? You have only been in the second god's sanctuary for less than a year, yet you have grown so much and achieved so many things. You haven't unlocked your gene lock, have you? On his way back, Zhu Ting watched Hansen with fervent curiosity. Now, he couldn't help but ask. Opening a gene lock is not that hard, Hansen told him, without blinking. Zhu Ting wasn't sure if what he had said was a confirmation, but he chose to believe that he had indeed. After all, Hansen had been in the second god's sanctuary for a way too short a time. When I created this team, we established a rule. For the acceptance of a new team member, a unanimous vote must take place. Although I am the team's leader, I cannot override this rule. Okay. The next day, Hansen arranged for others to deal with the shelter's business in his time away, and with the silver fox in hand, followed Queen out of the ice field. The silver fox was quite amazing, as no creatures of the sea decided to harass them there, either. This seemed to satisfy Queen, as she now looked at the silver fox with greater kindness. But Hansen couldn't enjoy the same treatment, for she had not spoken to him once for the duration of their journey together, and the way she looked at him was cold. Hansen understood that she was still angry with him over what happened that day. Knowing his place, and acknowledging the need to give her space, he avoided talking with her in fear of increasing the tension between them. They sailed across the sea for 2 days before they caught sight of a black island on the horizon. Queen beelined for it, clearly marking it as her destination. As they neared the island, they espied 3 people standing on the shoreline. 2 men and a woman, each clad in beast soul armor. They looked refined and elegant, and it was plain to see that these were not ordinary evolvers. Big sis, what took you so long? The woman yelled from afar. The woman was quite short, and despite looking quite beautiful, displayed a hint of laziness. There was a rock in the road, so I had to delay my arrival by an extra couple of days, Queen explained. Although she was a proud woman, she was not unreasonable. Big sis, who is this man? The woman seemed surprised to see Hansen standing by Queen. After the two men greeted Queen as well, they too seemed to have been alarmed by Hansen's presence. His name is Hansen, and I wish to propose his inclusion on our team, Queen merely said, foregoing any detailed introduction. You must be an elite for Big Sis to personally invite you on our team. Can I ask, what is your gene lock power? The woman asked Hansen with curiosity. The two men remained silent, and they continued to lock Hansen within their gazes. Certainly. Then, they cared deeply about Queen's reasoning for bringing aboard someone else. Oh, me. I haven't even unlocked my gene lock yet, Hansen lied. Since Queen only said she needed the help of the Silver Fox, he didn't need to step up to the plate and disclose himself fully. Now, he could just follow the team from behind as Queen had personally told him to. Super creatures were nothing to trifle with, and the image of the blue seahorse was still fresh in his mind. You didn't unlock your gene lock. The three of them called out simultaneously. After looking at Hansen with bewilderment, they then turned to look at Queen. Queen attempted to explain Hansen's situation by saying, I have tested this personally on my journey here. Silver Fox is special. Whenever it is around, no other creatures are, either. If that is true, then why not just buy the pet? There is no need for this slouch to join the team, one of the men said. This man was downright handsome, with blonde hair and emerald eyes. The other man and woman did not say anything yet, as they were a little unsure as to how they felt. Sorry, this pet is not for sale. Hansen quickly shut him down. The blonde man looked to say something again, but Queen prevented him. She said, according to the rules we established upon this group's formation, everyone is provided the opportunity to say their piece. If you don't want this person on our team, then feel free to say so. If that is the case, he will be gone. But I am the one who brought him here, so no one can touch him. An uneasy silence followed, which Queen broke by asking, where is the rest of the team? Have they still not arrived yet? Big sis, it sounded like the three of them were delayed by something. But I'm sure they'll be along shortly, the woman said. Well, in that case, let's wait until they have arrived. We can discuss and vote on Hansen's inclusion when they get here, Queen said. The handsome blonde man then said, Pa, we don't have to wait. I disagree and don't want him. Did you forget that one of our founding laws stated that anyone who joined must have unlocked their gene lock? This guy wants to be some Klingon, using his pet while he reaps the benefit of the potential slaying of a super creature. I understand, but his pet may prove vital to our current struggle. It could save us a lot of trouble, Queen rebutted, shooting the handsome man with her stiletto gaze. Yes, tyrant. To have someone like this isn't such a bad idea. The woman was in agreement with Queen, and so she joined in and tried to convince the handsome man. The handsome man called Tyrant now looked cold. He said, I would rather struggle than share the rewards of actually slaying a super creature with a noob who hasn't unlocked their first gene lock. Queen frowned at Tyrant adamance about Hansen's exclusion from the team. She nodded and said, okay, fine. If that is how things will be, I'll return him home. After that, Queen climbed on top of the whale's back again with Hansen. She apologized to him, saying, I am sorry for wasting your time. This was a pointless journey. It's okay. Hansen shook his head and gave a wry smile. He didn't want to risk his life, and that's why he did not admit that he had unlocked his gene lock. But he didn't expect that he would be rejected by the group and shot down so quickly. He had only just arrived here, and now he was to be sent back. Hansen wasn't too happy about this, but he did not think it would be a good idea to admit the truth now, either. As Queen prepared to take off with the whale, Hansen noticed the coming of someone who was riding a sea beast. He was gliding across the waves at a furious pace. Before long, he had arrived on the island. Strangely, however, he looked severely wounded and was covered in a mass of burns. Many were dressed in hastily wrapped bandages, but even so, you could tell he was not in good shape. Horny old man, are you okay? Where is Shan King? Queen dismounted, and everyone gathered around him. The other woman quickly moved to help support him. On our way here, we came across a creature that breathed fire. It was too powerful and I got separated from Shang King. I don't know if the rest made it away. Horny old man bleakly told the group, with a face as white as a ghost. The faces of the group were horrified, but they could not do anything. To encounter a super creature was always a frightening, life-threatening ordeal, but to stumble across one in the sea was a nightmare. He was lucky to have made it out alive. The burns that had scorched horny old man's body were not mild. When Hansen saw the burn marks, he could not help but ask himself, did they meet the blue seahorse? Lazy cat, you stay here and tend to horny old man. Me, Tyrant, and Sky Jealousy will go and take a look. We'll see if we can find them. Queen leapt onto the back of her whale as she spoke. Tyrant and Sky Jealousy summoned their own sea rides, and they all hurriedly took off in the direction horny old man pointed. Despite looking for the missing persons, they weren't able to find a trace. It was mostly likely that they had died. It looks like Queen and her people haven't yet killed a single super creature, despite the fact that they have unlocked their gene lock. Humans in the second god's sanctuary are still struggling with their overwhelming strength, it seems. Hansen's mind was alert. When he first unlocked his gene lock, he was extremely happy about it. But now he felt as if its status carried a certain weight to it that he had not realized previously. Queen, Tyrant, and Sky Jealousy rendezvoused in a location they had established. Their faces looked dim, a clear indication that they had no luck in searching for their missing compatriots. What do we do now? Even if they were killed, you were not even able to recover their bodies. Horny old man is still injured. Are we still going after the creature on the island? Lazy Cat frowned. Of course we are. Otherwise, our time here will have been wasted. Tyrant coldly said. But right now, only the three of us remain. What if it really is? Lazy Cat trailed off and did not finish her sentence. Still, everyone knew what she meant. How about we allow this temporary friend of ours to join us? Sky Jealousy suggested, her presence breathing out an aura of elegance. Tyrant furrowed his brows at the prospect but did not say anything in opposition. If the others had arrived without issue, he wouldn't have given the idea a second thought. But now there were only 5 of them left. If they wanted to prove the existence of the creatures they sought, bringing Hansen and the Silver Fox along to shoo off any additional mobs would be a great help. What does temporary mean? Hansen skewed his eyebrows as he asked. Give us a price and we will hire you as a sellsword or mercenary. Tyrant coldly said, still unwilling to offer a formal position in their fellowship. Hansen looked at Queen as she calmly said, no matter what you decide, I will have you returned home without injury. When Hansen heard Queen say this, he smiled and replied, fine, you can hire me. I must warn you, however, I am expensive. I almost suspect you would not be able to afford me. How much do you want? Tyrant continued to look at Hansen with a stone-cold attitude. Well, the Silver Fox and I count as 2 people. Therefore, we will accept 1 sacred blood beast soul each. We won't settle for lower than that, Hansen stated. He wanted to receive some sort of benefit from this excursion, even if he hadn't come expecting any. And since he had come all this way anyway, he wanted to see how they planned on fighting a super creature. With someone now paying him to watch, there was no reason for him to decline. Formally becoming a member of Queen's team wasn't too important to him. After all, her team wasn't the only super creature hunting team in the second god's sanctuary, so even if he wasn't accepted here, he was bound to be accepted elsewhere. Okay, Tyrant did not even blink before agreeing. He gave Hansen 1 sacred blood beast soul and then said, this is a deposit. After we are done, you can have the other. I like that you are quick to make decisions. I have no problem with that. Hansen accepted Tyrant's terms. With Hansen here, we do not have to worry about any of the additional mobs that populate the island. The only drawback to his inclusion is a reduction of any extra goodies we might collect from slaying them. Okay, so who will tank and try to withstand the tiger's first strike? Lazy Cat worriedly inquired. Tyrant stepped up and said, I will do it. I recently came into possession of a sacred blood shield. If it really is a super creature, I should be able to block its paws at least twice. Tyrant will go in and block its attack first. I have drawn a map of the surrounding area. Sky Jealousy, you will go here. Queen went into great detail, explaining the plan. She had developed all sorts of contingencies, too, for if anything were to go wrong during their assault. Hansen wasn't included in the battle plans. All he had to do was stand a fair distance away from the creature, holding the Silver Fox to ensure no other monsters came near. Hansen had no complaints. Queen and the others worked well together. He had only come here to watch, but he also thought if he were to join in, he might interfere with the synergy the others had with each other. However, Hansen was well acquainted with the powers super creatures possessed, and he didn't think Queen and her team had what it took to bring one down. Hansen was worried that the Silver Fox might also end up chasing the White Tiger off, but these fears were soon allayed. From among 3 hills in the distance, a monstrous roar sounded, accompanied by a gusting wind. It was undoubtedly the White Tiger, and since it was still nearby, this most likely meant no other super creature would fear the Silver Fox. Either, it felt as if a tornado was now racing down from the hills, and the White Tiger in its midst would soon be upon them. Get ready to fight. When Queen issued her command, Tyrant and the others quickly assumed their positions and awaited the monster's arrival. There were supposed to be a great deal of other monsters on the island, but only the tiger and its wind came for them. No other creature could be seen, and this allowed the others to confirm the silver fox's ability for themselves. Hansen secretly turned on his gene lock, which pushed his seventh sense to the max. With it, he could see the white tiger running at them from a mile away. The white tiger looked angry, and the momentum that drove him in their direction was powerful. Although it wasn't too big, its presence exerted a pressure on them. It was almost like a champion descending from the sky. The faces of Queen and her team were bleak. Hansen saw this, then fell back a bit with the silver fox in his arms. He was afraid of super creatures, and really wanted to avoid them. It felt as if it was only dumb luck that had allowed him to defeat one back in the first god's sanctuary. The super creatures that populated the second god's sanctuary had a crushing power unlike anything else. If the baby silver fox had the ability to kill a person who had unlocked their gene lock in one hit, whatever the white tiger could do would be much worse. The silver fox now saw the white tiger, and it too looked nervous. Its hair rose up on its ends, and it looked at the tiger with hostility. Hansen held the silver fox tight, not allowing it to do anything unusual. The white tiger continued to traverse the air, but it was now only a mere dozen meters away from them. It raised its paw and whipped it through the air, as if the atmosphere was breaking in two. Violent gusts of wind splintered out to attack the team. Tyrant shouted and raised his shield, his body clad in golden armor. His shield presented a phalanx of steel, blocking the arrows of wind that came towards him. Dong. After the loud noise, Tyrant opened his eyes to see the shield in his arms shatter. A sacred blood shield, destroyed in an instant. Tyrant's hand had also been damaged. It was bleeding badly, and there was a tear in his thinner space. The faces of the team members changed. The power of the white tiger was even greater than they had expected, and it only took a brush of the air it controlled to annihilate Tyrant's defenses. Plan C, Queen yelled, as her body shining purple. She was making a move. Tyrant's body shone gold, like a heavenly being. He held a big black lance in his hands, which he used to thrust at the tiger. Lazy Cat also went into action. Despite her short and stout stature, which had led Hansen to believe she would be slow-moving, she was nimble and quick. Like the tiger itself, she harnessed the power of the wind. Sky Jealousy's hand held a sleek sword, the blade of which was thinner than a cicada's wing. After a low swing, a strong breath of frosted air was cast out of it. It looked like the sort of skill that would belong to someone from the zoo family. The white tiger's purpose was very clear. It seemed to target Queen. The wind that was cast out of its paws resembled projectile claws that soared through the air towards her. Queen's breasts jiggled rhythmically as the purple light shone from within her body. Her long, incredible legs carried her with tremendous strength as she ducked to the side to avoid the incoming attack. The green claw wind she dodged past her by and sliced a boulder in two. Dong. One of Lazy Cat's daggers struck towards the tiger. Then Sky Jealousy's sword and Tyrant's lance attempted to pierce their foe together. But something scary happened. The tiger's fur ruffled with an additional stream of wind. Lazy Cat's dagger, Sky Jealousy's sword, and Tyrant's lance fell short of the beast, as if their weapons were shielded from the tiger's skin by a thick, ardent, invisible shell of wind. Roar. The white tiger's body shook as it looked to the sky and roared. The horrid wind picked up, and a cyclone burst forth from its deafening cry. The cyclone weaved itself around the weapons that had tried to draw blood from the white tiger, and it twisted them out of shape. Only Tyrant's lance, which was incredibly heavy and durable, remained unbent. A few deep scratch marks affected its surface. The three of them fell back, unable to hear a thing as a loud ringing pounded in their heads from the sonic blasts. Their heads were in pain. Fall back now, Queen screamed and signaled. She summoned a dagger and threw it towards the tiger. The knife cracked the air as it traveled and looked as if it were about to impale itself in the tiger's eye. Roar. The white tiger cried out again. A frightening storm of wind coursed out of its mouth, becoming a solid slab of gale-force terror. It deflected the incoming knife. Boom. The knife was blasted away, shattering into little more than glitter before the tiger's face. Like the twinkling of stars and sparks in the sky, the wind scattered the remains of the knife. Hansen was shocked. That knife was a one-time use sacred blood beast soul. It was wretchedly powerful, but it couldn't even deal a single scratch to the white tiger. The tiger's fury was triggered by her surprise knife throw, and it leapt towards Queen for retribution. But Queen was quick on her feet and, like a graceful goddess, she was able to dance away from the tiger's claws. Hansen's eyes watched her with admiration, and he deeply respected Queen's heavenly go. It was as efficient as his own Dongchuan Sutra, but they both yielded their own particular benefits. Facing this white tiger and avoiding its attack was a testament to her dexterity. Tyrant and the others followed Queen's orders and quickly turned to fall back and escape from the beast. The white tiger was far more powerful than they expected it to be. It was unique, unlike any other creature they had seen before. There was no hope of competing with it, so they hastily retreated as soon as the order was given. "What are you doing standing there? Go!" Lazy Cat yelled at Hansen while she ran. It seemed as if they wholly trusted Queen's own ability to fall back once they had gotten clear. Hansen nodded, and with the silver fox in his arms, he pulled back. He didn't return at the same speed as the others did, though, and so he stayed behind them. Although they were confident in Queen's heavenly go, Hansen was the only one there who had learnt it. He understood Queen's position and situation more than anyone else did. Heavenly Go was an incredible talent, and it was currently eluding a beast as monstrous as the white tiger right now. But Queen's foe was imbued with the power of wind, and its speed was something else. No matter how effective her Heavenly Go was, she still couldn't shake the chasing tiger, and it would only take one misstep for her to meet her demise. After all, she was just human. If she could not get rid of the white tiger in time, she would inevitably make a mistake. Even if she remained flawless, it was only a matter of time before she exhausted her energy, and when that time came, death would await her. Hansen was thinking of how he might help Queen. They had a history together, and she was the one who taught him his Heavenly Go in the first place. "What are you doing? Don't run off," Tyrant called out to him. Ignoring him, Hansen summoned his golden growler and ran to the beach. With his own knowledge of Heavenly Go and the proficiency of his seventh sense, he could gauge where Queen was planning to go. He wanted to help. The white tiger was furious, and Hansen was worried Queen might not hold out until she got to the shoreline. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop!" Lazy Cat yelled at Hansen's fleeing shadow. "Just ignore him. This is why I cannot allow people such as that to earn a place on this team." Tyrant spat. The three of them saw Hansen head away from Queen's current position. With no idea of what he was hoping to achieve, pretending not to hear anything, Hansen carried on. He wasn't an official member of the team either, so he did not see why he had to explain his actions to the others. This test was already over. They had learnt of the white tiger's power, and they had failed in their attempts to attack it. He feared no one might ever be able to kill it. Hansen continued riding Golden Growler to the shore and arrived before Queen did, since she kept having to switch her direction to avoid the white tiger. He could see her approaching from a distance. She was bleeding, having sustained many injuries, and it looked as if her beast's soul armor could break at any second. Fortunately, they weren't grievous wounds. Her ability to reach the ocean side was not compromised. Hansen gave a long sigh and said to himself, "Queen is magnificent. If I was in her position, I don't think I'd last half as long." Hansen then went silent for a bit. He put away his golden growler and went into the sea. There was no use for him on the shore, so he had to get ready to meet up with Queen. Hansen hadn't been in the sea long before he saw Queen approaching. Like an arrow, she bolted into the sea. The blood on her body brought a misty haze of red flowers to the water, and it looked beautiful. He then saw a flash of white light descend across the tumultuous waves of the sea, and it violently scraped and clawed its way across the sea surface. When the tiger brought its paws down on the water, the seas parted in half, creating a trench of a few dozen meters. It looked as if the tiger wasn't yet willing to quit its pursuit. The purple light in Queen's body was shining, and she now clutched a lance in each hand. They were both dyed purple. She quickly turned around to block an incoming attack. Dong! Both lances were destroyed, which prompted Queen to say hum. Bleeding from her chest, she was knocked further into the sea. This hit put her in a critical status. Although the white tiger would not swim, it continued to swing its paws. The violent gusts of wind drove the sea mad, producing waves that were 30 feet high. Many coursed through the waters to slice at the seabed. Queen resisted succumbing to the pain that engulfed her. She dodged the white tiger's attacks as she tried swimming deeper and deeper into the sea. Going down there now would be useless, so he simply stayed where he was, hoping Queen could continue dodging the creature's assault. But the hit Queen had received was terrible, and it affected her performance a great deal. It was already hard enough for a person to maneuver in the sea, and now Hansen could see she was about to miss her next dodge. Gritting his teeth, Hansen took the plunge and went under towards Queen. Queen was still struggling. She noticed a shadow coming right for her, and after squinting for greater clarity, saw that it was Hansen. Hansen pulled Queen deeper into the sea. He was incredibly dexterous in the sea, so he was far more mobile than Queen underwater. "Hold me." Hansen put Queen on his back and told her to grab his waist. Then, with full speed, he sped off into darker waters. The white tiger was not keen to give up, so it continued casting its murderous gusts down into the sea. But Hansen was like one of the merfolk as he swam across the seabed with great speed, effortlessly dodging each of the tiger's attacks. Queen was grabbing Hansen tight, and she felt touched. She had never expected Hansen to come and save her like he had. Even in the sea, Hansen was using the formation taught to him by the Dongchuan Sutra. He kept maneuvering and switching position to dodge the tiger as he went, as pure speed wouldn't have cut it. But still, the white tiger was not willing to let them go. It wasn't until they were at a depth of 80 meters that the tiger gave up its attacks. At that depth, even the ferocious bullets of wind could not damage them. But the white tiger was still in pursuit, for wherever Hansen swam, the tiger hovered above. It was not going to give up its prey so easily, and it most certainly wasn't going to allow them to swim up to the surface. Hansen had already swum 300 meters deep without being able to shake its chase. He cursed it in his heart and continued swimming deeper. After swimming for half an hour, Hansen was around 500 meters deep, but it was still to no avail. From above the brackish waters, the tiger continued to watch them. Hansen was preparing to swim even deeper, but then he noticed something was wrong with Queen. He turned around to take a look at her, and her face was not looking good. It wasn't because of the injuries she had sustained, however, it was because she was suffocating. Hansen was shocked. After he learned Dongchuan Sutra, he was able to breathe underwater. Even the silver fox had this ability. Alas, Queen did not. If she hadn't been injured, she could have remained under the sea for several hours, but she had taken a blow to the chest. Her lungs were damaged, which made it difficult for her to remain underwater as she was. Queen gestured to Hansen, telling him that she wanted to return to the surface. She did not want to go up merely for air, but also to allow Hansen a chance of escaping their current predicament. Hansen pulled her close and shook his head. He looked into her eyes, touched her face, and sealed her lips with his own. There was a pleasant taste to her kiss. Her eyes opened wide at the sight of Hansen, whose face was directly in front of hers. But she quickly understood what he was trying to do. She didn't attempt to push him back, as she initially desired, and instead swallowed the pleasant taste he was providing her with. She was no longer suffocating and she felt rejuvenated. When her body was relieved, she pushed Hansen away and grabbed his waist once again. Then they swam deeper. When Queen could no longer hold her breath, Hansen gladly breathed more air into her lungs. After doing this a few times, Hansen had swum several thousand meters below the sea. Eventually, the white tiger gave up its chase and returned to the island. Hansen was still worried, though. To ensure absolutely safety, he swam for another dozen miles and then returned to the surface. When they were back below the sky, the tiger was nowhere to be seen. Then Queen summoned her whale. She quickly climbed onto it and fell down. Her face looked poorly. The wound in her chest was deep and it hadn't had the chance to heal, due to being in the water for so long. She had also suffered much blood loss. Hansen quickly searched himself and Queen, but realized the package they had brought with them was gone. They had no curatives or medical items. It's okay. I'll be able to hold on. Cough, cough. Queen managed to maintain her composure, and if weren't for the gaping wound, it would be difficult to tell she had been severely injured. But having damaged her lung, even speaking caused her to spit out some blood. Just hold on. Hansen used his hands to tear off some of her battlesuit, clearing the area around her wound. The beast's soul armor had already been destroyed by the white tiger, and the battlesuit beneath was damaged. Hansen ripped it easily, exposing her chest. A pair of massive, snow-white breasts presented themselves to Hansen, but they were damaged, a nasty gash cutting across them. Hansen wasn't sure whether or not to be aroused by the sight. Queen's eyes revealed her awkwardness over the situation, but she did not move. All she did was blush. Under their current circumstances, Hansen wasn't in the mood to admire her body, so he lifted the silver fox and placed it on her chest. He then told it, "Silver fox, please help." The silver fox looked at Hansen and then turned to look at Queen. It then started licking her snow-white skin. After the silver fox had licked her for a brief while, her body began to tremble. The wound that had already started to show signs of infection sealed shut. With the bleeding stopped, the area looked better and better each second. Queen felt as angry as she did awkward, having no idea what Hansen was doing. But when she looked down at the afflicted area, she noticed the wound was starting to fade away as the silver fox licked her. She stared at the creature in bewilderment. Hansen looked at the silver fox, but his eyes subconsciously moved to look elsewhere. He noticed Queen was breathing quite rapidly and her chest was beating hard. The jiggling almost caused Hansen to lose all composure. Queen was surprised to see the silver fox possess this ability. For a brief moment, she forgot all about Hansen being near her. When she heard Wretched panting to her side, she looked over, shocked, to see Hansen unabashedly staring at her breasts. Her face turned red and she moved her hands to cover her exposed chest. Though with the silver fox on top of her, and the size of the breasts themselves, she couldn't hold them. All she could do was yell, "Are you still looking?" Oh, I'm sorry. Hansen used his hands to shield his eyes. Queen almost fainted in embarrassment. Although Hansen put his hands in front of his eyes, he made sure to keep taking peeks through the quick shuffling of his fingers. Turn around, Queen said angrily. Fine, fine. Hansen reluctantly turned around, feeling envious of the silver fox. While he was forced to look away, the silver fox was being allowed to freely enjoy the delight every man desired. After that, the silver fox jumped back to Hansen. But he didn't hear Queen say anything. Can I turn around yet? He eventually asked. Give me a beast soul armor. Her voice was cold once more, a sign she had mostly returned to normal. Sure. Hansen turned around to look at Queen and froze. The sun was setting, turning the ocean into a beautiful vat of molten, glittering gold. Queen, in all her elegant beauty, was sitting before the scene naked, with her arms wrapped around her busty chest. Her round shoulders, sexy bones, slim waist and bendy legs. In the light of the setting sun, she could have been mistaken for a mermaid queen. Still looking, Queen hissed these two words between clenched teeth. Eyes were built to watch things of beauty. I cannot ignore their desires. Hansen slumped his shoulders while he spoke. He pulled back his gaze, brought out his blood scale armor, and gave it to Queen. She donned it immediately, and the armor concealed her voluptuous chest. Although you could make out slender curves, the overall sight was less arousing. Still, she had a beautiful face. It was the face of an elegant goddess, one who no man could touch. You looked better earlier. Now you look too cold, Hansen said. Don't think saving me grants you a free pass. I still want to kill you, and if you say another word about my body, I'll cut you down right this second. Queen directed a furious gaze towards Hansen. If eyes could kill, he would have been diced into pieces already. Fine, I will stop. Hansen closed his eyes but started to smile. And don't think about it, either, Queen added. The smile Hansen was giving her was unbearably smug, making her believe he was memorizing something he had no right to. Queen thought she must have done something truly awful in her past life to have become acquainted with Hansen in this one. Hansen tore the clothes from her body when they last met, and he had pretty much done so again. It seemed as if all her most embarrassing moments kept occurring with Hansen. Eventually, Queen calmed her mood and became cool again. She resolved to try not to be so short-tempered, lest something even more embarrassing happen. After all, Hansen had saved her, and she'd feel terrible if she did something bad to him. But whenever she opened her eyes and saw Hansen, she got incredibly angry and her temper rose again. So, she turned around and decided to gaze at the sea instead of Hansen. She asked, where are we? I don't know. My primary concern was shaking the white tiger, so I took a number of twists and turns. I don't even know which direction the island is in anymore. Hansen blinked. Queen furrowed her eyebrows and said, leave your silver fox here. We'll come back. But for now, we need to go get some food. There's no need. I can handle it. Hansen placed the silver fox on the back of the whale and then jumped into the water solo. A while later he returned, carrying a fish that was 2 feet long. He skinned and deboned it. Then, he cut the meat into thin slices and picked one up. I can. Queen thought Hansen was giving it to her before she could reject him. However, she noticed Hansen was instead feeding it to the silver fox. She quickly closed her mouth and blushed. Oh, you want some? I can give you some. Hansen heard her half-sentence, so he picked up another slice and brought it to her. Come on, open your mouth. Queen felt as if she was going to explode, as more and more blood pumped to her face. She clenched her jaw hard and didn't say anything. She then moved to sit behind Hansen. Without looking at him, she grabbed a slice of fish by herself. Hansen slouched his shoulders and placed the fish he was holding into his mouth. He held the silver fox and sat in front of Queen. He and the fox happily shared their portion, dividing it evenly between them. When it came to the last slice, he picked it up and started to put it in his mouth. But before he could take it all, the silver fox jumped onto his arm and bit the other half of the fish. Neither of them wished to let go, which annoyed Queen. In her heart, she asked herself what sort of person in their right mind would fight for food with their pet. But Queen felt like something was wrong. The lips of the silver fox and Hansen were connected, but the silver fox had just licked her most beautiful trophies earlier. Queen's cold face suddenly turned all red. She turned around and went to the head of the whale and looked out at the ocean. What did I do to upset her this time? Hansen was surprised because he was just playing with the silver fox. He had no idea why she was so mad again. By now, they had both acknowledged that they were lost. The whale had been swimming for half a day, with no sign of land. After another half day, Hansen suddenly saw something green on the horizon. It could have been an island, he thought. We are saved. There is an island in the distance. Even if there is no one there, we could at least find some real food. All this time adrift, all we have been drinking is fish blood. I'm getting sick of it. Queen looked happy at this news, too. The entire time they had been on the back of the whale, they had been eating fish meat and drinking fish blood, and she too was starting to hate it. As the image of green drew nearer and nearer, it revealed itself to indeed be an island of sorts. The hills were quite steep, but they were short, and it was decorated with much foliage. There were no tall trees on the island, but there were many berry bushes. The berries they contained looked like delicious little grapes. Queen summoned her wings and flew over to take a look. The island wasn't too big, and it didn't seem to be populated with any creatures. Both feeling confident about their newfound parcel of land, they disembarked and climbed onto the island. Hansen looked at the red berries and thought to himself, these berries can't be like those red mushrooms, can they? Queen had already ventured inland. After a brief search, she found a pond hidden among the hills. The prospect of fresh water excited her very much. What are you looking at? Queen noticed Hansen squatting near the bushes. She furrowed her eyebrows. I am wondering whether or not I can eat these things. I am getting tired of eating fish meat, and I am keen to eat something fresh like this, Hansen answered. Don't randomly eat stuff. Let's stick to the fish, Queen told him. Although she was sick of fish meat as well, not all plants in the world were safe for human consumption. The berries did look delicious, but who knew whether or not they'd cause problems if eaten? I think they're okay. I'd say it'd be okay for us to eat them. Hansen continued to observe the berries, and from the knowledge he had received from Professor Sun, he was sure they would be fine to eat. Queen ignored Hansen and simply returned to the sea to catch more fish. She was happy enough to be able to cook the fish meat, and doing that was certainly better than risking the consumption of curious, unknown berries. Although Hansen was sure they would be okay to eat, he didn't take any. Hansen had a question burning in his mind. Why did the berries, while edible, grow in such abundance on the island? And why were they wholly untouched? While they were out at sea, they saw many birds flying overhead. And yet, there was nothing in the remote vicinity of this island. This made Hansen believe something was wrong. Hansen fought back the desire to try out the berries and decided to take a stroll around the island, find out what he could, and see if he could witness anything strange about the place they had ended up on. The island wasn't too large, and a regular human could walk around it in half a day. With Hansen atop Golden Growler, combined with his abilities, it didn't take him long to scope out the place. While the island wasn't too big, the hills inland were strange. The rocky hills were not too high, standing at about 20 meters tall, and from afar, one could mistake them for overgrown pineapples. The weirdest thing was how identical each hill was to the next. Hansen climbed a hill and looked around. On the tallest hill, he caught sight of a lotus-looking plant. It looked like an ordinary lotus, with 7 leaves and a bud at the center. It was also pure white. Hansen frowned. Lotuses tended to grow in water, or at least in very moist soil. He had never seen one grow on a hill before, which made him question whether it was really a lotus. Seeing as it was just a plant, Hansen didn't think he'd have anything to be afraid of. Carrying the silver fox, he decided to ascend the hill. Upon reaching the top, he took a proper gander at the 7-leaved flower. Taking a closer look, Hansen confirmed that it was indeed a lotus. Its snow-white petals were all folded around the fist-sized lotus cup inside. This was different than the usual green ones, as this cup was snow-white on the inside, too. It was semi-transparent, and there were many red seeds on the inside. However, it wasn't very big, which indicated it wasn't fully mature yet. As Hansen continued to observe it, the silver fox jumped out of his arms. It used its own nose to sniff the lotus and blinked as a human would. Then, it curiously circled the lotus as if inspecting the flower. After a while, the silver fox decided to lie down next to it. Silver fox, do you care to tell me what that means? Hansen asked, while looking at the silver fox with a puzzled expression. If the silver fox wanted to eat something, he'd usually gobble it down without a second thought. He had never waited for his food before. The silver fox's face suggested that it did want to eat the plant, but the fox continued to just lie down next to it. Hansen wasn't sure what it was thinking. Do you want to wait until it is ripe? Hansen thought of this possibility and asked the silver fox. But the silver fox could not reply. All it did was squint with its eyes and continue lying there. It was almost as if it were guarding the lotus plant, like a watchdog.